here. And we should be audible.
Already audible.
Alrighty. You in the chat then?
Yep.
Alrighty.
So far it just says me.
I feel like there's a spot for me to see who's in the chat, but I don't remember. Oh, there it is. on the new chat with the new YouTube version. Still just showing me, but but it says that there's multiple viewers. Stupid YouTube. All right. Well, if have some people maybe in the chat here, but yeah, we're here for a new roundtable. Ended up being that we weren't as overloaded with news as I thought we were. Yeah, here now it's showing your chat, but if I go to the participants tab, I don't know if it still doesn't show anything. You'd think YouTube belonging to Google, they'd be able to get some of this stuff figured out, you know?
No.
Not like they don't have, billions
Most
of dollars.
Most likely it's just us not understanding how to use it.
I mean, it's just a button that says participants, and it only shows me.
Right, but you're the only one participating in the video.
Oh, maybe it is video but it's under the chat tab, though. It seems to me that would show.
I think it's if
chat.
you have like more than one collaborator in like a stream. Because like when I watch Achievement Hunter, it has multiple cameras, so it would probably have them all listed.
Oh, could be.
So.
We're not as overloaded with news as I thought we were, so we probably could have done a book club, but obviously I was in the middle of prep before figuring that out, so too late to be changing things.
To let me know to do book club prep.
Yeah, not to mention me in terms of doing it. So we got kind of a normal episode. Yeah, the email had been overloaded with a bunch of different things, and so I started going through them, and yeah, there just wasn't as much to talk about, a lot of junk that we just didn't necessarily need to cover. So
okay.
So let's go ahead and hit the intro and get started. Hello, Chris. Got Chris in the chat here. All right, so let's go ahead and listen to Mr. Frank and Mr. George with the intro.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own Palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are quartet, one from many. Let the Palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, the Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're both on the mend. I think I tweeted out on my Palaver Tad thing because I didn't do an episode last week because you didn't have a cold, sir.
No, I had the flu. and I gave it to you.
Yeah, dick.
My mom told me to share when I was a kid.
Yeah. I don't know. I disagree with said things of sharing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're both on the mend, so hopefully voices will hold out and everything. But yeah, we're here for roundtable number 85, as the screen now says. And I can't remember. I had the counter thing up at one point. I checked it before this episode. And we are at 117 for overall episode.
Nice.
So, yeah, pretty cool. So yeah, let's go ahead and hit the intro stuff real quick, and we'll dive into it. I said just before the podcast started, for the standard podcast for the people in the live chat, I was telling everyone that the news wasn't necessarily as overloaded as I thought it was. I was kind of taking a gauge of it by how many emails I had in the thing. But when I actually went through it, there really wasn't as much. So honestly, this probably should have been a book club, but I found it too late in the game to change it back to a book club. So do a round table, hit a couple of emails and stuff. So Plus, we do have some news to talk about. So we'll go ahead and start with the spoiler warning. If you have not finished the 7 primary books of the Dark Tower series, you may want to cry off and listen to the book club episodes, because in those we stay within the realm of where we're at or before. We never go forward. So if you're, say, in the middle of book 4 or 5, or with the keyhole in between, you may want to not listen to this episode. Things like things from book 7 especially tend to pop up just randomly in our conversations.
Yeah.
So we would hate to be the ones to spoil you. So stick with the book clubs until you're finished with the series, and then you can listen to as many of the roundtables as you'd like. Next up, if you want to find us, you can find us a number of places. One of them being Apple Podcasting, as well as Stitcher, and any podcast service, and including recently they took off the restrictions on Spotify, so we are now also on Spotify.
Hey!
So if you're one of the many people that use Spotify for your streaming service for music, you can find Dark Tower Palaver on there now. So we could pretty much say, I believe, everywhere that podcasts are available, we should be available. If there's ever one that you find that you think is worth it and you find is not on there as you transition over to that new one, let us know and we'll try to get on there. But for the most part, everyone uses from the same library, so we should be about everywhere now. Next up, if you want to subscribe, rate, and review us, you can do that on any of the services. That'd be awesome. Apple is definitely the big one, and that's where a lot of things tend to move through in terms of listenership. So new listeners usually find the show and we get more rates and reviews on Apple. So we'd appreciate that. And next up, if you want to find everything like pictures and articles and stuff we talk about, that's on our show notes, and those can be found over at darktowerpalaver.com.
I actually brought a picture this time for us.
Yeah. So we got a picture this time. Also, last episode, for example, we shared the extended quartet book counter, the one that's kind of on a shared sheet to where everyone can fill out their own little column and compare to us, and kind of have like a communal one. That was shared on the last episode, and I'll put it on this episode's show notes as well. Things like that can be found at the website at darktowerpalaver.com. If you want to engage with the show, you can do that in a number of ways. You are part of the extended quartet now, and Peter can tell you the best way to engage with us.
Best ways to reach us are through email, darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. We also have Facebook. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And then Twitter, it's at darktowerpod. That's at darktowerpod. We stream our shows live. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. Don't forget to like and subscribe there. Ring the bell to get notifications for when we go live. Even book clubs are live. They just don't stay up because of the copyright with the sound clips. And then recently we got our own Instagram. It's Dark Tower Palaver. Check us out there. Maybe we'll put up a picture later on those.
Yeah, indeed. So we've got, I wanted to actually talk about the quartet count, because I was kind of looking down it, and we actually have, first of all, Steve from Chicago and Christy from Australia are both tied at number 1 with 97%.
Dang.
They've read 72 out of the 74 books. And I was looking down, and it was kind of funny because there's a couple books that everyone has missed.
Really?
There hasn't been a single person yet that's put on our thing that has Storm of the Century. And then where's the other one? The other one's the one that I wanted to bring up to see if we wanted to remove it. It's the book Faithful. It's the one on the Boston Red Sox thing. And I believe, if I remember looking it up right, it's basically about, it's a journalist and Stephen King. I believe they started emailing each other during the 2004 season about the Red Sox, and basically they ended up publishing it. So it's not a fiction thing; it's a nonfiction, and it's a little bit more. I mean, I guess it comes down to, we count on writing. So do we want to count that one? Because that's the other one that nobody has touched. Like there's some other ones that a lot of people haven't, but a couple people have. For instance, I'm looking at Full Dark No Stars. The two people that have 97 have hit that one, but nobody else has, including ourselves. So I was just curious with Faithful if that's one that we should keep on that list. I mean, Stephen King has it listed as a novel from his website, because that's how I got this list. But I was just curious, since nobody's read that one, and I could see why maybe as constant readers it may be one that people aren't as keen to reading. It's just a question I thought.
I would say take it off. That would be my opinion if you're asking for it.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking. I mean, I'll hold off until our next roundtable, which is going to be a couple. Let's see, probably March at this point now, because we'll do
The second one in February.
We'll do a book club, because
Right.
we're skipping a book club for this, because today's February 1st, by the way, sir.
Oh shit! It is February. So we'll do one.
Oh, actually, no, it's the very tail end of
yeah,
February.
it's the last day of February.
So we actually, how is that we get 3 episodes in February? Like,
it's leap year. We'll actually do one on the 29th.
oh, okay, yeah,
That's why.
That I guess that does make sense. So it's the shortest month, and we get 3 in here. That's kind of interesting.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess leap year helps. So yeah, on that episode, if anyone wants to engage us on Twitter or email and let us know about Faithful, whether we should leave it on the list or not, kind of have your say on it as well, because it's definitely a communal thing. But it was interesting for me that one was not read by anyone. Storm of the Century is a weird one, though. Why? I wonder why that one is untouched.
Honestly, it just doesn't. I just forget that it's Stephen King. You
Yeah,
know?
I'm trying to. Let me see. Yeah, Storm of the Century. That's. I guess just. I mean, because even Rage has half the people on our list that have done it have read it. So
Speaking of list, will you go mark a book off for me?
which one?
Doom McKee.
Yeah, that one is. Let's see what year. I guess I can search. 2008.
Oh, nice.
So that puts you into 40. So 40 read. So yeah, that's just kind of an update. So we've got a number of people. Let's see, we've got 5 people, then us 2 on this list. So yeah, if you are like someone that listens to the podcast and want to be involved with this as well, go to the show notes, grab the link to this, and you will be able to go to it. Of course, we just ask, be polite, don't mess with other people's lists or whatever. Just do deal with yours, nobody else's, obviously. Hopefully we don't have anyone that would be so rude as to sabotage other people's stuff. But yeah, that's where we're at. We have 58, 97, 51, 97, 51, 54 for you, and then 39 for me, so I'm the lowest.
54 for me?
Yeah. 50,
Oh. I thought you said I was at 40.
40 books.
Oh, 54%.
54%. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So that's where we're at for percentages wise. So that is the update on that. So,
Over halfway.
Yeah, just over half with 74. I mean, it's going to drop a little bit and change the things a little bit if we do drop Faithful, because that'll bring it down to 73.
Yeah.
Although here in the next little bit, we'll have a new book published this year probably,
Yep.
and that'll offset it back. But it's pretty insane, though, when you think about some of the other authors out there.
Mm-hmm.
Some authors don't even have, like, I don't even 15 books,
Yeah.
So it's just crazy that, King has so many that, I was thinking about that myself. I was like, man, I'm slacking. And I mentioned on the last episode, I do a lot of rereads. I think that's my biggest downfall is doing rereads versus new reads.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about, I'm like, it's funny because on this list, I'm the lowest number of everyone on here, but at 29 books, like there's authors that don't even have that many books. So, there's authors that are like, oh, they have 7 or 8 books or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy that it's like, oh, I've only read 29 books from this one author. It's crazy.
Or you have someone like George R.R. Martin who has a series that's famous. He hasn't really done anything else outside of that.
Yeah.
So Stephen King having 74, 73 different, few from series.
Yeah.
The 7 Dark Tower, the 8 Dark Tower.
Yeah, the
books,
Mr. Mercedes trilogy.
Yeah.
Dr. Sleepin',
Dr. Sleep and The Shining now. Yeah, there's a couple that are like that, but for the most part, I mean, when you look at individual works, I mean, he's at least over 50.
Yeah.
And that's just insane to think about 50 different individual sets of universes. I mean, a lot of his share universes, but 50 unique stories, settings, and characters and plots and everything like that. So
Yeah.
that's insane.
Yes, indeed. So we'll go ahead and jump on over to the first news article we've got. And this is titled, With Midnight Mass, Mike Flanagan is creating a Stephen King shared universe of his own. And this is by Andrew Wallen from Newsweek on January 6, 2020. And so it starts off here. It says, after wrapping up The Haunting of Bly Manor, a sequel season to Netflix's The Haunting of Hill House, Mike Flanagan will start working on a new series for Netflix, which has an eerie connection to the horror director's previous movies. On Saturday, Flanagan shared on social media that he would soon be starting work on the follow-up to Bly Manor, an original project for Netflix called Midnight Mass. And then it says in parentheses, unrelated to Vertigo comic series with a similar title. It says, according to Deadline, who first revealed Midnight Mass in July, the series takes place in an isolated island community plagued by, quote, frightening omens and miracles after the arrival of a charismatic, mysterious young priest. Mike Flanagan will direct all 7 episodes of the series. And then, in response to questions following his announced return to Vancouver, where Flanagan will finish The Haunting of Bly Manor before turning to Midnight Mass, the horror director revealed that his upcoming series isn't entirely a standalone, but instead connects to at least 2 of his previous movies, Hush and Gerald's Game.
Ooh.
So, over here we have a tweet on the screen, and a person asked Midnight Mass based on the book that shows up in Hush and Gerald's Game, and Mike Flanagan responds saying the very same.
That's really cool.
So it says, in Hush, released in Netflix 2016, a mass killer traps author Maddie Young, played by Kate Siegel, laying siege to a remote forest home. Before she is under attack, we learn a little about Maddie's book, Midnight Mass, when another character returns a borrowed copy. And then the same hardcover edition of Midnight Mass also has a cameo appearance in Flanagan's 2017 Stephen King adaptation for Netflix, Gerald's Game. And I have a picture of that. So kind of a shot from the Gerald's Game movie. And one thing I have to point out is he's done a lot for Netflix.
Yeah, he has.
Like he did Oculus Rift, but like as it was a full-on movie. But it's like and now he's done Dr. Sleep. But beyond that, man, most of his career has been with Netflix, it looks like. So, which is not a bad thing by any means. And then it says, while Maddie Young's best-selling novel makes a cameo appearance in Gerald's Game, can be thought of as an Easter egg or an inside joke, the coming adaptation of Flanagan's book within a movie suggests something closer to a new kind of shared universe King created for his novels. In both Gerald's Game and his most recent movie, The Shining sequel, Dr. Sleep, Flanagan has repeatedly referenced the larger King universe outside the immediate story. In Gerald's Game, there are narrative connections to both King's novel, the Dolores Claiborne, and the Dark Tower series, and also to Flanagan's 2013 horror movie Oculus. As the titular Gerald says after he has died, alluding to the 6 forces or beams holding up the Dark Tower, the nexus of all creation in King's novels, all things serve the beam. So that's the update. And I think I had misread that headline and thought that maybe this would be an article revealing the new King work that he might be working on. But obviously it's not, though it is really cool. And if Flanagan wants to create himself a little shared universe of his own, I'm totally okay with that.
Oh yeah, we know how much you're loving his stuff right now.
Yeah, I am. It's been really good. I think it's Tuesday this week is when Dr. Sleep comes out on home video. So looking forward to buying that on Blu-ray and watching the director's cut.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And then not to mention dive into hopefully a bunch of special features. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. We'll have to definitely keep an eye on that. And kind of interesting how his universe that he's going to be building has crossed over with the Stephen King universe a little bit. Kind of reminds me of Nosferatu for Joe Hill. It definitely has some crossover with King's work as well. So it's kind of one of those ones, King's universe is so big that other universes cross paths with it, which is pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you've read Nosferatu, haven't you?
I don't remember the crossovers for King stuff.
It's on isn't there stuff on the maps that are dark? I can't remember. There's Dark Tower. There's Dark Tower references.
I think because it says Pennywise at one point.
Yeah, I think in Pennywise as well. So, because again, I think I told you when I first read Nosferatu, there was times I had to stop and remind myself that this is not Stephen King. This is somebody else writing this, because
That's right, yeah.
It was very stylistically the same. Plus, also like the normal Easter eggs that King will throw in were being thrown into that one. So it just made it blur in my mind and made me think that Mr. Joe Hill was Stephen King himself. But
close,
which is it's high praise too. I must say. Because, Stephen King is obviously a wonderful author. So for his son to be able to write enough to be confused as his father is high praise for him indeed.
Yeah. Ryan says in the chat that Dr. Sleep is his #1 King movie next to Shawshank and can't wait for the Blu-ray.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'd rank it up with Shawshank personally, but I definitely think it's easily in my top 5.
Yeah.
Like Doctor
Well,
Sleep.
that's up there with Shawshank. Then I mean, that's top 5.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember when we did our lists exactly which ones. I know Shawshank and The Shining are right up there at the top for me. But I'm not sure. It'd be hard for me to top those. But I mean, to be fair, part of that might just be like the length of time that I've had them.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to dethrone things that you've loved for most of your life.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, he did an incredible job with that movie, and I think that it is definitely top shelf King film quality.
Oh, it was so good.
Definitely. Okay, so next up, let's see. Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm wondering if I got things out of order here. So let me jump over to this one here. So this next one is how The Shining influenced HBO's Stephen King drama The Outsider.
I need to get caught up on that.
By Emma Dibdin from The Hollywood Reporter on January 10th, 2020. So how far are you on that?
First 2 episodes.
Okay.
When I was homesick, so kind of background just a little bit. We recorded the episode on Saturday 2 weeks ago, and I was sicker than a dog on Sunday. I tried to go to work. They sent me home. They're like, "No, you're sick. Get the hell out of here." Monday, got up, got ready for work. Walking out to my car, I vomited. Just all over the sidewalk. I'm like, okay, this is obviously not going to work. Went back upstairs, threw up 2 more times before I could even call out of work. Monday, my wife's like, if you're not feeling better tomorrow, you're going to the doctor because I think it's the flu. And I'm like, it's not the flu. Like, my stomach feels fine aside from the throw up today, and I was coughing so hard that made me throw up. And she's like, no, that's the flu. I had the stomach flu when I was in 7th grade.
Yeah.
And that's what I've always thought the flu was.
Yeah, no.
Is that your stomach feels like crap. You throw up, you have diarrhea, you have the fever. That's the flu. That's what I've always thought. I didn't realize that the flu also has like cold symptoms.
Yeah, so the flu and the common cold are both of them are upper respiratory infections.
Right, exactly.
They're respiratory diseases.
One's a virus, one's
and one's an infection.
An infection, right?
But
so I found that out Monday. So I went to the doctor Tuesday, and they tested me. They walked out of the room. They came back. They're like, yeah, that was one of the fastest flu positives that we've gotten. You definitely have the flu. Here's your flu medication. And I think it was either that day or the next day you put up on your personal Facebook that you're like, yeah, well, pretty sure that I'm sick. I might have the flu. And I'm like, shit. Like, pretty sure I know where he got it from because I was sitting here from you for a couple hours that previous Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, when we recorded it, it was definitely more thought to be probably more of a cold.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. And that's just where my head goes when I have sniffles and sneezing and coughing. It's a cold. It's not the flu.
Yeah,
but then I went back to work this past week and completely forgot about The Outsider. But I was out of work all of that week.
Yeah.
So I watched the 2 episodes of The Outsider when I was trying to get better.
I remember if there's 3 or 4 out now.
3, there's going to be 4 tomorrow.
Okay. So the 3rd episode was really good, by the
Yeah.
way. I really enjoyed it a lot. So
Wait.
you'll have to watch that one.
No. There's already 4 episodes, isn't there?
I'm not sure. I don't remember now.
Wasn't your favorite character introduced in the 3rd one?
Yes.
Yeah. So I watched 3 because I watched that episode.
Okay, so the 4th one is
So the 4th one came out, and I haven't watched that. So we're about to have episode 5?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So it's really good. Highly recommended to everyone, though. This article is before the show even started, I believe, or right close to it, January 10th.
That's before, yeah.
So this isn't any spoiler territory or anything, but it's kind of cool to see the creative behind the scenes type thing for The Outsider and how it finds a connection to The Shining. So it starts off here. It says the first 30 minutes or so of The Outsider, HBO's atmospheric new limited series based on the 2018 King novel, plays out like a familiar slow burn crime drama. Small town cop, played by Ben Mendelsohn, haunted by a recent tragedy in his own past, investigates a brutal child murder that's shaken its community to its core. What's not clear initially is how this story could possibly sustain multiple episodes, since the case seems to be open and shut. beloved local Little League coach Terry Maitland, Jason Bateman, who also executive produces and directs some episodes, is the murderer, according to multiple eyewitnesses and physical evidence at the scene. But once Terry's ironclad alibi emerges, he was miles away at the time of the murder, and there's video evidence to prove it. Things start to get weird in an otherworldly sense as Mendelssohn's Ralph begins to realize he and his fellow officers are in over their heads. The Outsider reveals itself to be an unusual blend of grounded police drama and supernatural horror. Which, yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of the charm of the book as well. And then it goes on and says, this is a quote here from the executive producer. It says, I think that's what attracted King to the material. Executive producer and director Andrew Bernstein told The Hollywood Reporter at the show's Los Angeles premiere. He wanted to take what seemed like a straight crime procedural and turn it upside down with supernatural elements. It's a tricky balance because we wanted to really ground the show in reality as well as in the characters rather than trying to scare the audience at every turn. And I would say that, pausing the article itself to say, I think that they've done a great job of that so far. I think that it does really feel like a procedural for the most part. And in fact, I've been following some online like people talking and stuff about the episode on Twitter, read it a few different places. And it's interesting because for the most part, you can kind of tell there's book readers and there's people who are just watching the show, and the show is is really popular. So there's a lot of people watching it.
That's great.
They haven't read anything. And it was funny because episode 4, it was earlier than I anticipated, but that's kind of when you kind of get a peek into what's going on. And it was funny because there were once some people that were completely turned off of the show that had started watching, and they were hoping it to be more grounded in true detective like. And the introduction of supernatural elements was enough. I mean, a lot of people are sticking with it still, but I did see some where they were just like, I was really hoping that, just because King was involved, this wasn't going to turn into some, supernatural thing, and they were really bummed out. So it's kind of funny because, I mean, for the first 3 episodes, there's very little outside of the fact that there's an impossibility in the logic. Beyond that, there's really no way of knowing, that anything crazy is going on.
Yeah, just a couple weird things, kind of like when you look back on it after you get forward. Just like in the book, when you get a little bit forward, you're like, oh, that was a sign earlier on, but it couldn't be, told.
Yeah.
It wasn't that obvious, but looking back on it. It's the same thing with the show. I know that in episode 3, there was one there that I was like, see, I remember that from the book, and that's a clear sign that something hinky's going on.
Yeah.
And in the show, it's just like, no, that's just something weird. It's not like supernatural weird. It's just something odd and unexplained so far. But it'll have a logical explanation. And then, like you're saying, all of a sudden we take a left turn and things start to go a little bit weird.
Yeah, indeed. And then this is a quote from Bernstein again, Andrew Bernstein, the executive producer. He says, quote, "The Shining was a template for what we were trying to do. The question of where does evil come from? Is it within himself or is it coming from somewhere else? That was something that Jason and I talked about a lot in this project." And then we have a quote from Jason Bateman, and he says, "I was trying for The Shining in that there were certain kinds of horror that exist in some of Stephen King's stories, and then there's certain kinds of dread that exist in others. This show aligns best, I think, with the dread and impending doom that was of the feeling of The Shining, and that was an intense kind of atmosphere that was in The Shining. I'm also a big Kubrick fan, and just composition-wise, the camera and lighting and music, the film was a huge inspiration for me." Which is pretty cool to hear both of them saying that. And then the last thing we have here for this article is Cynthia Erivo, which is playing Holly Gibney. And her quote is, "One thing I've never really seen is a woman of color being shown in that light, where there is a social awkwardness and a communication barrier is slightly up. It was fascinating to explore awkwardness of how she relates to the world and combine all that with the brilliant minds of these of all these specifics of how she dresses, the way she speaks, why she answers things, if she answers things, when she takes a pause. Her rhythm is so different from anything that I've ever played before, and I really enjoyed her." So, I've been loving what we've seen from her so far.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool, though. I think it's kind of interesting. Have you caught any of that at all, like vibe wise, like connections, like like vibes of The Shining?
I didn't, but when it gets pointed out, there's something that stands out to me. No spoiler. There's a scene where something happens, and instead of making it obvious that there was someone in the background, it like kind of slowly pans in, and that was something that Kubrick did in The Shining. Is not necessarily like make things like obvious, but there would be like slow pans or slow zooms. It's not just like, like a jump scare. There's a person over here. It's not like that. It's the your focus is over here on the left side. I think you know the scene that I'm talking about. And it's on the left side of the screen. And then as that's unfolding, there's really not anything else that can really kind of be done there. The camera just kind of pans down and to the right. It's not like the far right corner where it's like hidden like some directors will do. It was there. It was like middle right. And it's like until it actually shifts like to put that center, you didn't realize it, but there was someone there the whole time and you're just like, holy shit. Like, oh, that's kind of creepy. It's like it's almost like the character, whatever it is watching you a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's something that I get. It's very like a Kubrick kind of feel.
I have
for
to
me.
throw a shout out to Andy Muschietti with the first It movie with that librarian.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's just like the reason that's so unsettling is because the camera never pulls focus to focus on that character. The camera never like cuts to show that character.
Mm-hmm.
It's an entirely a background thing. But it's just so that makes it almost more surreal because if they would have just cut to it, it would have just been like, "Oh God, that's creepy." But that would have just been like forgotten. Like neither of us even remember that probably. But the fact that it was like not called up on, it makes it even more iconic and almost more memorable.
It's so much worse when they don't draw attention to stuff like that. It's like when you go back and watch a movie and you see like early on. You see the shadow pass in the background, and you're like, oh, "Fuck, that's the creature! That's the killer. That's the creature." Like you see it, and then like every time after that, it's like, "Okay, where is it? Where is it?"
So I don't watch the theatrical version anymore. I only watch the version you've never seen, which is The Exorcist.
Yeah,
that came out 20 years ago or
yeah.
more now. So it's one that most people have probably seen.
Me.
Now with that, there's a lot of subliminal. Faces, Captain Howdy. A lot of them are fairly obvious. They're just like it'll flash on the screen for a split second and stuff. But there's one that I missed for a long time because it doesn't flash over the screen. It shows in a shadow at one point when the mom looks into a room and there's just this black spot and the face it just like is there, and it never focuses on it. So if you're looking at the mom on the left side of the frame, looking into the dark room, and not on the right, you're gonna miss it. But like it just like makes it so sweet that you can watch it the 15th time and see something new, and it's just like holy shit. Like
there's definitely something that the outsider's going to have as rewatch value after you get through the series.
Yeah,
is go back and rewatch it, knowing what you know. But even like for me, like I know the story. I've read The Outsider 3 times now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
I've only read it the once.
Well, I read it the first time.
There's part of me that wishes I would have read it again before the show.
Yeah.
Because there's been some times where I'm like, and I've even seen things online where people are like, oh, this is way different than the book. And I'm just like, okay, like I don't remember how different this is from the book because I'm really hazy on a lot of the book because I haven't read it since 2008 or 2018 when it came out. And I mean, that's a couple years ago now.
I read it when it came out, and then I read it again because we were talking about doing an Unfound Door on it.
Oh,
and then that fell through because you hadn't reread it. And it's like, well, we want you to reread it. I was like, fine.
And then isn't that around the time that we kind of were?
We did Castle Rock.
Then and I think we were kind of like we want to start to wait on books and not.
Yeah, we don't want to do an Unfound Door right after a book is released, and that was within 6 months of it coming out, and so we wanted to wait a little bit. But that was also around the time that Castle Rock season 1 was launching, and so we're like, okay, well we started watching Castle Rock, and we're like, okay, we have got to talk about this show. Like, what the fuck? We got to talk about this. So it was kind of like The Outsider or Castle Rock, and that's where we made the decision to go with Castle Rock. And
I think that's right. And then we ended up doing the Institute, and it was way too early.
It was
and
way too
now
early.
we've definitely set a rule that we'll
Yeah.
at least wait 6 months or a year from a book publication before we do a Unfound Door on it or an episode on it.
Yeah, and so that's where we I read it the second time there, and then this last fall I was getting ready for Doctor Sleep. I read that in September, and then it's like, damn, like, well, what's next after Doctor Sleep? And I'm like, oh yeah, The Outsider comes out in January. Guess I'll read that. So
Yeah, okay.
I read it again.
So I have to, I'll have to bring this up, and I'll have to remember to find it and put it in the show notes because it's not in my notes. It's just tangent because we're talking about the Shining here.
Our first tangent.
I found a video some months back, probably in like October or so, and it's a behind the scenes of The Shining.
Okay.
And it's kind of interesting because like you can kind of see the shitty treatment of Shelley Duvall by Stanley Kubrick, but also at the same time, one of my favorite parts of the video is the Jack in the freezer, or the cooler, not the freezer. And basically, it's Kubrick trying to figure out the shot, and it's the one that he finally comes up with is that up shot. That's like
from
when
below.
he's got his like forehead on the door as
Yeah.
he's like talking to Wendy and the camera's down below. Like you basically see as this video is being recorded, and I think it's recorded by Kubrick's wife is the one that's recording it. And it's just interesting because it's like to me like that's a really iconic shot in The Shining. So to just watch him playing with it on set and like trying to figure out what shot he wants, and then eventually like coming to what we know the shot will be, it's fucking fascinating. And like I'll definitely want to share that I'll put that on the show notes because I think that if anyone's a fan of the Shining movie, they'll probably dig it watching that, because I was overwhelmed by seeing it, because I don't know, I think everyone just thinks, oh, Kubrick, like he was so brilliant, and it's almost maybe picture that like it all just he had it all figured out from the start. He knew exactly what he wanted to do, because there are filmmakers like that. They just know exactly what they want to do. So just the fact that he wasn't like that was interesting, and it was fun to watch.
Oh, for sure.
So I'll have to share that.
Alan says in the chat, did you see that Stephen King's leaving Facebook?
Yeah, he's leaving Facebook and Instagram. There's been a lot of people doing that recently. I didn't necessarily put it in the news here, but I definitely did see that. But yeah, I there's been some, I don't know, it's been a thing a lot of people have been doing. And yeah, Stephen King. I only recently started following him on Facebook. I've always had him on Twitter. But I found that putting him on Facebook was easy to make sure that I didn't miss anything. But yeah, it looks like he's signing off for a while. So
yeah. Ryan also asks, how do the two Hollies compare? Talking about Holly Gibney for The Outsider and Mr. Mercedes. He says, I haven't seen either Mr. Mercedes or Outsider yet. I can't remember Mr. Mercedes because I've only seen season 1.
Yeah, same here.
And
that's been a while.
Been at least a year now?
Yeah, a couple years, I think.
Has it been? Because they're on season 3?
3's done now.
3's done now. We've
So.
only watched season 1.
Yeah.
So I can't say.
It's been a
for
couple
Mr.
years.
Mercedes.
I remember liking what I saw from her, though. It's a little bit more traditional to the book. We talked about it on the last episode or two that the makers behind The Outsider wanted to do their own thing with the character, and they didn't necessarily want to be tied down by what was in the book, even so far as they actually wanted to change her name and just make her a completely fresh character. And King told them that they could do whatever they wanted with the character, but they had to keep the name. So it is Holly Gibney, and she definitely does have quirks, as that quote I just read a little bit ago from Cynthia Erivo. But it's definitely not exactly the book. But I love Cynthia Erivo. She's one of my favorite actors right now. So like her playing Holly is amazing. I'm loving it personally, but it is definitely different, which is cool to me. Like, give us different versions of the character. Don't just like, I don't know. I'm liking it quite a bit, and I'm really looking forward to watching seasons 2 and 3 of Mr. Mercedes.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Holly shows up in the first season until halfway through or so.
Yeah.
Which
Right.
follows the book. I mean, she doesn't come in until a little ways into the book too.
Until the funeral.
So yeah, so there's just part of me that's like, I can't wait to watch those 2 seasons to see her full on and see how the actor portrays her in that. But I've definitely liked what I've seen from both so far. And he also says, Ryan also says, I liked Holly in the books. I see myself in her. Yeah, I love her. I mean, she's one of my favorite King characters. I think even though she's only been around a short time, I think that she may have clawed and scratched her way to my top 5 King
Nice.
characters. I mean,
Ryan, the outsider Holly is a little bit different quirk wise, but the outsider, the character in the outsider has different quirks, but it still has a very Holly feel to it.
yeah,
For sure.
yeah, definitely.
It would be almost like a Holly, Earth 1 and Holly Earth 3. I think that would be like the difference there.
Yeah.
If you're looking at like multiverse kind of thing.
Yeah, they're twinners.
They're very, very close.
Maybe not exact.
Maybe not exact, but they're really close. She gives this little speech in The Outsider about stuff and her condition a little bit when she first meets I want to say Alan, but that's not right. The detective.
Ralph?
Ralph. The main guy in The Outsider, about how like she has like a perfect memory for albums and
Yeah.
days that they're released and where they were at and when they fell off the top 100 chart.
Yeah.
But if you asked her something like, well, what's the day, she'd have to look at a calendar.
Yeah.
So it's just like different, but still very Holly-esque,
Yeah.
for sure.
And like socially, she, like Cynthia said in this thing here. Let's see. She says where there's a social awkwardness and communication barrier is slightly up. I was fascinated to explore the awkwardness of how she relates to the world and combine that with the brilliant mind and all of these specifics of how she dresses, the way she speaks. So I mean, yeah, I just feel like very much it's definitely in the realm of what we saw with Holly. It's just different than what we saw with Holly.
Yes.
And I really enjoy it. I will also say, just as a tease to you, the newest episode, the 4th episode, I believe it is very Holly heavy.
Nice.
So
Nice.
Yeah, that's. In fact, I'd say that she's the star of that episode. In fact,
Yes, right. And you could say it's Holly from another level of the tower. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the difference between Eddie at the end of book 7 when Susanna goes through the door, and Eddie Dean that is with them in the quartet. There's little differences.
Eddie Dean that was is that
Eddie Dean that was, but that's exactly what we're talking about. Is that it's just slightly different.
Yeah. And then Travis says, back up to the Stephen King topic. He says, I'm guessing it has something to do with his recent remarks about the Academy. I don't think it's that. A lot of people are basically leaving Facebook because they're not really a fan of what Zuckerberg and stuff has been doing. And just politically, Facebook hasn't been making a lot of people happy because of some certain things. And that's basically the reason that they're signing off. And Instagram belongs to Facebook. So
Kind of goes hand in hand.
it goes hand in hand. So that's why he's signing off both of those. I think it has way more to do with that than anything with the Academy. And I don't remember. I remember seeing his post, but I didn't necessarily take it down to like know it right off what he said. But I'm pretty sure it has more to do with that kind of stuff with Facebook.
He's also had very strong opinions about the Academy for years. So
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's our conversation on the Outsider from the front end. Again, that article was before the show debuted. It was right after the official premiere, but not the HBO premiere. So yeah, definitely watch that. Maybe with The Shining in mind. Next up, let me, because my slides were out of order here. Or let's see, did I? Okay, yeah, I did. So they're a little out of order. So next up is when is The Stand coming?
A very poignant question for you. You're definitely top of your list right now for adaptions, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's coming up soon too. Like it's not like it's coming 4 years from now and it's at the top of my list, although it would still likely be high on my list. But it is coming this year. So, but the question is, when is it coming? So between January 7th and the 19th, in Pasadena, there's a huge press event that's hosted by the Television Critics Association. And this is often a place where studios and stations will kind of make their announcements. You'll see things, sometimes you'll see trailers or castings or I believe CBS All Access announced that Picard Season 2 is going to happen. Things like that. It's like, basically up on here's a note. Think like E3, but for television.
Okay.
Like it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that was going on. And on January 12th, CBS All Access had their event. And I found a few tweets that mention The Stand. And they give not necessarily an exact timeline, but a little bit rougher timeline of maybe when we can expect things. So let's go ahead and take a look at those tweets. The first one here is from Eric Deegans, and it says CBS All Access is all in on Star Trek Picard, announcing that at TCA 20 they've already picked up a second season for the show. And then it says in 2020 they'll have the original shows all year from Picard this month to a new version of The Stand at year's end. So that's the first one. The second one is a little bit more Stan centric, and it's from Aaron Pruner. And on the show notes, we'll have a link to this. And I basically all I had to do was search The Stand, or I think I searched TCA 20 and CBS All Access, I think, or The Stand. Either way, the link I give in the show notes, it'll click and it'll bring you to a search result that only has these two tweets. And the second one's Aaron Pruner. It says they just gave a little update on CBS's new version of the Stephen King's The Stand. It'll come out fourth quarter of 2020, hashtag TCA20. So it sounds like, I mean, and I would have guessed, because they're filming it currently, that it was probably going to be late in the year.
Yeah.
I definitely wasn't holding my breath that we were going to see it in April or, even
right.
September. So, fourth quarter of the year, which is any time between October and December. I would hope maybe a Halloween premiere right around there would be really awesome.
Nah, it's a perfect show for Thanksgiving. Because then you can be thankful that you're not in that situation.
Yeah. And actually, I'm trying to remember who now on Twitter. I apologize, because I actually remembered right as we were starting. Somebody actually sent me a video of I just blanked on his name. Is it James Marsden? The guy that played Cyclops back in the day, and he's in this new Sonic movie. It was actually an interview for the Sonic movie, but at the very end, they asked about The Stand. And he said that hopefully we'll all be alive to see when the show airs, now that there's a real virus breaking out.
Yeah, no kidding.
And he basically gives a little kind of a thing about the Stand, basically very little. And I was going to get a sound clip of that and play it, but I completely spaced it until we started the show. So I don't have that. But had just a couple small updates. But overall, we're a tiny bit away from getting the actual stuff.
But it's this year.
Yeah, it is this year.
Yeah.
But I don't even think they've wrapped filming yet. So, all the way. So that is that update.
Mm-hmm.
So next up, let's see here. Yes, this next one here. Stephen King producing Sleeping Beauties adaptation for AMC. And it says by John Squire from Bloody Disgusting on January 16th, 2020. It says it was announced before Stephen King and Owen King's Sleeping Beauties was released that a television series being eyed, and we learned last year that AMC had given the series a pilot script commitment. The latest on the project, as revealed by AMC during the Television Critics Association Winter Press Tour tonight, that the series is moving forward. Sleeping Beauties is on AMC's development slate. Executive producers include both Stephen King and Owen King, along with Michael Sugar and Ashley Zalta for Sugar 23. Then we got a quote here from Cy King. He says, I'm tremendously excited to see Sleeping Beauties brought to life in a format that will allow the story to be told as it was meant to be told, in all its mysteries and drama. And then the article closed off here with a synopsis of the book. Have you read Sleeping Beauties yet?
Not yet.
Okay. I just let me refresh my thing here. I just pushed the wrong button. It got everything all crazy here. Let me find where I was at. Here we go. Lost my place. It says, in a small Appalachian town, there's a strange mystical occurrence that causes all the women to fall asleep, leaving the men to try to rescue them. But do the women want to be rescued? So that's the little synopsis that they give. So looking forward to that. That's one I need to read as well. So got a green light. Sadly, we're talking about a different show for a green light. As Dark Tower is obviously still in transition, as we talked about last episode. But I mean, who knows? I think we brought up AMC last time. The AMC is maybe a good place to go, and now okay. Should hopefully be coming back now. Let's see. What's it looking like on your end there, sir?
I'm spinning. Travis says he hears us.
That's weird.
Might just be my phone.
Yeah, I mean, it's showing like orange on my side, so maybe it's having issues. Hopefully it's holding well though. But yeah, definitely not looking the greatest. But let's see. I'll just refresh one more time. But if everyone can hear us, we'll keep going. Let's see. Oh, maybe it's even more like showing us that it's buffering. But maybe it's more video related than audio related.
Oh, mine just came back up.
Okay. Alrighty. Sorry about that, guys. Not sure. It's been a minute since we've had any streaming issues. Yeah, so that's our update for One King property, and I believe we have to get that added to our board. The big board here of adaptations. I don't think I've added that one yet, and I actually didn't even think about to add it when I was adding all this stuff to the show's stuff here. So definitely have to get that added
Sure.
for a future episode here. So let me go ahead and jump to the next one, and this is the one that was out of order here, and it's one that I thought would be a good one to talk about. It is the many notable aliases of Stephen King's villain, although I don't like that phrase, Randall Flagg. And this is by Helen Armitage from Screen Rants on January 18th, 2020. I mean, what better way to start the year in a lot of ways, we're still starting the year, than by talking about our boy Randy Flagg, right?
Villain.
So it says Randall Flagg is one of horror writer Stephen King's most revisited characters, but he goes by many different names. Here's a recap of some of the more notable aliases. Randall Flagg is one of the most popular and not to mention prolific of all Stephen King's bad guys, since he was first introduced by the author's epic post-apocalyptic novel The Stand in 1978. Randall Flagg has appeared in several other King works, including Hearts in Atlantis and the Dark Tower series. Because so many of Stephen King's books have been adapted into movies and TV shows, his enduring antagonist has gotten the big and small screen treatments too. Randall Flagg is first played by Homeland actor Jamie Sheridan in the Stand miniseries that aired on ABC in 1994.
One of your favorites.
Indeed. Still who I picture when it comes to Flagg, by the way. And by Matthew McConaughey and Nikolai Arcel's big screen adaptation of The Dark Tower. Soon, Alexander Skarsgård will play the literacy horror villain in a new miniseries take on The Stand, set to air on CBS All Access in 2020. Yes. One common theme among Randall Flagg's notable aliases is the initials RF, as seen in The Stand, in which he goes by the names Richard Fry, Robert Frank, Ramsey Forrest, Russell Faraday, Robert Fremont, and Richard Fremantle. Various characters in The Stand also refer to him by nicknames, including the Walking Dude, the Midnight Rambler, and the Old Creepin' Judas.
Jeez.
Those are some pretty badass nicknames, by the way. The Walking Dude is obviously, that's a great one.
Yeah.
Next up says the RF theme would continue into the Dark Tower series, which saw Randall Flagg's variously adopting aliases Richard Fannin and Rudin Falaro. The Dark Tower book also reveals Flagg's birth name is actually Walter Paddock, but he also goes by the name Walter O'Dim and Walter Hodgie, in addition to the pseudonym Martin Broadcloak and John Farson. In his most recent Dark Tower book, The Wind Through the Keyhole, Stephen King refers to Randall Flagg as the Covenant Man. That's again, that's we could definitely say about him is, names aside, the nicknames he has are metal as fuck.
Oh yeah.
Then it goes on here. It says, in King's 1982 fantasy novel, The Eye of the Dragon, Flagg uses the name Browson and Bill Hinch. While in Hearts in Atlantis, he appears as Raymond Fiegler, the leader of a militant activist group in the 1960s. Randall Flagg's most recent book appearance came in 2017's novel Gwendy's Button Box, which is co-written by Stephen King and Richard Chismar, as Flagg adopts the persona of Richard Ferris. So that's the article in total there. But it's kind of cool to go through and see. I mean, we could have easily pulled that off Wikipedia most likely, but it's fun to
Yeah.
have a little recap. And, whenever my news thing pops up and shows me an article on Randall Flagg, my first thing is going to be, let's go through this article.
Yes, let's talk about the villain.
I don't know about villain. I mean, look at him. He's a lovable character.
He looks evil.
He looks like Matthew McConaughey.
Exactly.
How could Matthew McConaughey be evil?
Easy like that.
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, I love it. I love it though. Good to talk about Randy a little bit here. Okay, so then I also have some production updates for The Stand that came about and kind of interestingly. So we had and these were on the 25th and 28th on Instagram, and both of them were posted by Chris Fisher. And this is some updates, but it also brings up some weird questions. So the first one, his first Instagram post here, is a chair with the novel on it. It's one of those director chairs that says The Stand. It has The Stand on it. And he says in the text portion, it says, second to last day on hashtag Stephen King's The Stand. This has been a life-changing opportunity to direct one of the most important, epic, and terrifying stories ever told, and one that desperately needs to be retold today. Hashtag make a stand. So that's interesting because up until this point, we've been under the impression that Josh Boone is directing all 10 episodes. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure. I mean, I know Chris Fisher is a director. He's done a number of things. I should have grabbed his IMDb and given some of his things. I know he's done some TV work. I think one of his more unfortunate jobs was doing the S. Darko, the sequel to Donnie Darko.
Oh.
So that's unfortunate. But he's done a number of different things over the years. And yeah, I don't know what's going on with this.
I mean, he could be obviously like a secondary director or something.
Yeah, but I mean, the problem is that up to this point, we've been pretty much told that Boone was directing all 10 episodes.
I thought Boone was writing all 10 episodes.
No, they've been saying directing too.
Oh.
So that's where it gets interesting. And then also in the comments of this, it says, somebody said, congrats, is filming finished for everyone? Is it a wrap already? And he responded, nope, I've handed off the reins to the incredible Vincenzo Natali, who is directing the final 2 episodes.
Oh, okay. So
it
other
doesn't,
people are...
Yeah, it does indeed seem that multiple different people are directing, which is interesting. IMDb is still only showing Josh Boone is directing all 10 episodes. And then I also looked up that Vincenzo Natali, just to see who that was. Also, I mean, because he did it in the answer section as a hashtag, which obviously blurs everything together. And I'm like, Vince? And then I'm like, no, because then there's extra letters. I'm like, I don't know what this person's name is. So I looked him up and like, oh, Vincenzo Natali. And it was interesting. What I found on him was he is the writer and director of In the Tall Grass for Netflix. Okay. So he's already a King, someone in the King pantheon already. So very interesting. It seems that, we're getting multiple directors, which is strange. We'll see what happens as we get closer and we find out who's directing what. And also the fact that Vincenzo is directing what Chris here is saying is he says he's handing off the final 2 episodes. So that's strange to me because when I look at things like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, Vince Gilligan a lot of times would direct 1 episode a year, and almost always it was the final episode. Yeah. It's just one of those like to close it out. And I mean, you're talking the final episodes are written by Stephen King, right? The final episode at least. So it's like if you're Josh Boone, would you give that up to direct a new ending to the Stand that has never been? I don't know. I'm intrigued what this might mean long term. Like, what is Josh Boone doing? I know obviously he's been huge behind it development wise, writing wise, carrying the torch wise. But it sure seems like he's at least not directing 3 episodes because Chris doesn't say on his thing here how many episodes he's directed. But he does say the last 2 are for Vincenzo. So there's at least 3 episodes, if not more, that are not directed by Mr. Boone.
Interesting.
So, yeah, very interesting. And then next up, another post by him a few days after that. Again, from the 25th, now you're moving to the 28th. He has another post with a great illustration from the book with the weasels. And he says his text here says, thank you to the cast, crew, and writers for the best experience of my directing career. I made my stand, hashtag Stephen King, hashtag The Stand, hashtag CBS All Access. So seemingly he has finished what he's doing. The fact that he is also bringing this picture in is interesting because one of the comments, I didn't take the text, but somebody asked or said like, thanks, it was great working with you. And he responded, yeah, it was, those are really fun days and nights that we filmed. So he is likely doing some night filming, which of course we know there's plenty of that in the stand, but
Oh yeah.
Sharing this picture, maybe he's doing the weasels.
Mother Abigail.
I did notice, and I'll actually just pull it up because I don't remember who we've talked about on the stand. I think we've covered most of the big cast, but I didn't have this on the notes, but I wanted to look at it and look at some of the maybe not major roles and see what it might tell us about the show. So let's see. There's a person called Foreman, which that could easily be body cleanup, whatever. Phoenix Guard. Let's see. Plague victim. Here's one. Abigail's mother.
Flashbacks.
So we will probably get, which makes me wonder about the weasels, because one of the main flashbacks in the books is them flashing back to her getting bit and then being scared about her getting there's that, and there's also the
Singing at the Grange Hall.
Yeah, there's that too. So who knows? Then there's also characters like older brother, which I don't know who that might be. Ralph Hodges, I don't know who that would be. Definitely weird because I don't think we've seen Ralph Brentner. Is that his last name in the book?
Maybe they changed his last name.
Could have changed his last name because we haven't seen a Ralph Brentner yet. Female patient, stage 5. That sounds like a fun role.
Oh, are they doing the freaking massacre at the studio?
Could be.
Damn.
We got someone named Vince Hogan, which doesn't ring a bell to me. Definitely not a big character. Stalker is one. Trauma nurse. And then there's an uncredited Boulder citizen. So just a couple of smaller names down below. There's the big ones we've already talked about. Harold's mom is on there, which is
interesting.
That's an interesting one.
She's not in the book at all.
No. Do we get even? I mean, does Fran ever tell stories about dealing with
stories
the parents?
about Amy, but no like flashbacks where you actually get like interaction with the character? Just like, yeah, I grew up with her and she was my best friend, and then we grew apart. That's about it.
Okay. So, yeah, kind of interesting. But, yeah, definitely looking forward to that to come out. Let's see. Next up is another. In fact, it's another update on the stand. And it's a new casting. And it is Fiona Dourif reflects on Chucky looks ahead to the stand and eats cereal. This is from Sci-Fi Wire, January 31st, 2020, and it is by Sci-Fi Wire staff. So not crediting anyone. We've seen that before, unfortunately. So you familiar with that name?
No.
Okay. Her dad is quite famous. Brad Dourif. He played Chucky. In the first Chucky movie, and he's voiced him in all the movies pretty much, as well as he played Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings for the younger non-Chucky loving folk. So this is his daughter. I think you can kind of see her dad in her a little bit. But yeah, I'm kind of excited by this. So let me jump into it here. First of all, let me say, I'll just tease the show notes again. Go to the show notes if you're a Chucky fan at all and read this article, because she tells some cool stuff about Chucky, things like being like 4 or 5 years old when her dad was recording audio for the first movie.
Yeah.
She was also in 2 of the more recent Chucky movies with her dad. So there's a lot of really cool shit that I really wanted to pull in and cover, but it had nothing to do with the topic at hand. So go ahead and go to the show notes and read that stuff if you're a horror fan, a Chucky fan, Brad Dourif fan, or a Fiona Dourif fan. And it's let me jump into where she starts talking about the stand. It says that fear hasn't stopped Fiona from starring in a few horror movies of her own. And I will say right before that, it talked about how she was basically quoted saying she hates horror movies. She can't watch them. She doesn't have the stomach for them. They scare her too much. Also, I'll throw out another tease that she also mentions what her most terrifying horror character is. So go read the article and you can find that out. But then it says, in one of her upcoming projects, she'll join the cast of Stephen King's The Stand, a new adaptation for CBS All Access. And then the quote here, she says, I'm playing Rat Man, says Fiona. You guys remember Rat Man. Rat Man is now Rat Woman, which is great. I read the book and watched the miniseries. I love The Stand.
Hey.
So that's a big character. I mean, I think they really upped him in the miniseries, though. He isn't really that big in the book. Every time in the book, I'm waiting for him to do more, and he just doesn't.
He has like 3 lines in the book.
But in the series, like, he runs into Larry before the outbreak, and then you see him a number of different times
in Vegas.
Yeah, so great. I mean, yeah, if you're the daughter of Chucky, and I mean literally the daughter of Chucky, not doll-wise, you can probably do a good villain, would be my guess.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
It's in her blood.
Yeah, exactly. Playing a villain in a scary thing would be in her blood.
I'm glad that you're admitting that Ratman's a villain. 'Cause, he is in Vegas with Flag.
Does he ever do anything, though?
Yeah, he's part of the. Is he part of the crew that picks up Larry, Glenn,
Is
and
he?
Ralph? I think so. Because I think it's Glenn that he like shoves him, and the cop from Long Beach is like, "Hey, don't shove him." And he's like, "If you would have had to ride with him for 3 hours, you would shove him too." And he's like, "I don't care, don't shove him, or you're gonna answer to Flag." That's the one that. And then I think it's the one that Larry interacts with later. He has like a fucking pirate sword on his belt.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
The Rat Man has a pirate sword.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So that's pretty cool. Let's see in the chat here. Travis says, I'm chomping at the bit to spill some news, but I'm pretty sure Tad has it. And then he says, yep, there it is.
The Rat Man.
Yeah, and I know
Rat
Travis is definitely a horror fan enough to appreciate the royalty that she is in horror pantheon here. I mean, even if she wasn't in some of the later Chucky movies, the fact that she's the daughter of Chucky is...
Yeah,
I mean, that's up there, and Brad Dourif's a great actor. I believe he's done a couple other horror things too. I want to say I saw him in something recently, but I can't remember what it was exactly.
Yeah, he was in something because I'm like, dude, this guy's creepy, and you're like, yeah, that's Chucky, and I was like, God, that's it.
Yeah, he's the real Chucky before Chucky gets put into the doll. Now, here's the question: is he scarier when he's the killer as a human, or is he scarier as a doll?
Doll.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't know. He's still pretty creepy, doing like the whole seance at the beginning of the first movie and stuff. Pretty wild.
What was it that I watched recently that I'm like, this dude is like freaking me out? I was saying something like I don't like him or something, and you're like, yeah, that's Chucky, dude.
Yeah. Travis also mentions Cult of Chucky. I believe the article or something I looked up on her, I think it said she was in 2 of the movies. So Cult of Chucky, and I don't remember what the other one was. But I want to say that she's been in the most recent 2. I mean, I don't even remember what role. I don't even think I've watched those yet because the one was straight to video. Or maybe it wasn't, because it wasn't the latest 2, because the newest one is the Mark Hamill one. Yeah. Let's go ahead and jump on over to what we have next is odds and ends. And we're definitely going to have some time for some emails for sure.
Woohoo!
So first of all, odds and ends. The first one I have is Castle Rock season 2, which you haven't watched yet, right?
No, not yet.
Okay, you got to watch it. I think it was really good. I actually think I may prefer it to season 1. It was really good.
Know how much of a fan you are of her.
Yeah.
I want to say it's Annie.
Yeah, Annie.
Annie.
Yeah.
I want to say Annie Wilkes.
Yeah, Annie Wilkes.
Oh, okay. Go
yeah.
me.
I mean, Kathy Bates is the one that scares me. She scares me.
That's what was running through my mind. It's like Kathy Bates.
Yeah.
Like, no, what's the character's name? Kathy Bates. She's a psycho.
Yeah. It was really good though. A lot of cool characters, and it. I highly recommend everyone. But it comes out on Blu-ray. Season 2 does on May 19th, 2020. So that's kind of cool because
nice.
in this day and age, if something to belong to a streamer could very well be a spell that it will never get put on DVD or Blu-ray. So it's cool that it's getting a digital or a non-digital release. Okay. And then last up for the odds and ends, Peter, you brought over your Christmas gift, which we talked about. Can't remember
first episode back this year.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I guess that would make sense.
Yeah.
So go ahead and throw it up on the screen here.
yeah. So question for
Thing
you.
is pretty big.
It
too.
is fairly large.
Uh,
Like
it's-
that's Tad's door there here in the office. It goes up about what would you say 3 feet there to the top of the dark tower.
Yeah, I mean it's
And
almost the
it's-
doorknob
yeah.
level.
And so I'm debating on how to mount it. Like I
Yeah.
want to do it to the wall. Like it's pretty heavy,
Yeah,
So-
yeah. Definitely make sure studs are involved.
right?
I mean, there's TVs that are being mounted now that are way less than this thing.
Yeah, for sure. So this is going to be a surprise for Tad as well because I haven't told him this. That's actually yours.
You son of a bitch.
My wife had two made, one for me, one for you.
You know, I damn near, because she posted them on Facebook and she blocked you from seeing it. And she said, like, if anyone, that she knew was able to, she basically said what she wanted to do for you for Christmas. I damn near, like, commented and said, like, whatever it costs, get a second one made and I'll pay for it. Well, thank you. And
yeah, so
thanks
she
to your
showed
wife
me.
as
She
well.
showed me mine. It's actually, if you look, it's actually a little bit different style than mine. It's got a little bit more done on like the metal aspect of it versus the picture that mine is. Mine is like fully polished. The guy made the second one didn't have time to like finish it like all the way. So she showed it to me. She's like, "Which one do you like?" I'm like, "I like both of them. They're both kind of like this one's a little bit more like, kind of like reminds me kind of like more of the Dark Tower, like a little bit like beat up a little bit, but could still be easily like polished and made up and everything." But she's like, "Yeah, so I have a second one," and I'm like, "I'm gonna give it to Tad. You know that, right?" She's like, "If that's what you want to do with it, I mean, they're technically both yours." I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna give it to Tad." But last time I was just so sick that I didn't want to bring it over, so
Yeah.
I saved it for this time. But yeah, that's yours, sir.
Well, yeah, thank you, and thanks to your wife.
Yeah.
Definitely, I was certainly jealous when I saw the picture online. So,
Now you don't have to be. You got one for each of us.
indeed, definitely have to figure out mounting. But yeah, definitely will
Right
be
there.
interesting to mount in terms of because of the weight.
Oh
but-
no, yeah, it's solid metal. Like it's not like flimsy. It's thick, and yeah, you got to be careful up there on the spire. It's sharp, so around the edges right here is where you want to grab it.
Yeah, definitely don't need any tetanus shots.
On top of like everything with the flu. So
Yeah.
that's why I had to get a picture thrown in there just to be able to show the fans that yeah, Tad got one too. It's not just
Awesome.
me.
Well, you bamboozled me, sir.
Gotcha.
I was gonna say, it usually doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, I asked him after the last episode. I said, "Hey, I need to bring it over so you can see it. Like you haven't been over to see it. Like I got to bring it." And you're like, "Yeah, sure. Go ahead and bring it over. We'll throw it up, a picture up, and we'll talk about it." And I'm like, "Got him."
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you brought it because even if it was just yours, I definitely had no sense of scale
Yeah.
from the picture you sent. So I expected it to be smaller. So, yeah, pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's awesome. My wife and her side of the family down in Price, Utah area knew a guy that does metalworking, and he was able to make that with the name and the tower and everything like that. It's really badass.
That's awesome.
Dude, you know what would be really kind of cool is if you could get it mounted away from the wall a little bit, put some kind of
backlight.
like a light or something.
I've already
behind
thought
it.
about that.
Dude.
I want to say that Phillips, and I don't know, it may be too long, but they make some strips. And they basically make them for like if you have like a bar or something, and it strips with LED, LED lights.
Yeah.
And you can control it with your Alexa or Google Home.
yeah.
But it's just like the light bulbs I've got in my room. Like you could change the colors too.
Oh,
and
that's
some
cool.
people like put them back behind their TV to where like in the dark stuff, the back behind the TV will kind of like be lit up. So yeah, I don't know. Something like that might be too long for this, but it might be certainly something to look into because backlighting would be
Yeah.
really, really cool.
I think it would be really awesome.
Indeed. Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And
Now you got to find a place to store it till you can get it mounted.
yeah, that's true.
I had to put mine behind my dresser because we're still just looking at buying a house, and then when I buy a house, I'm going to find a place to mount it and how I'm going to mount it. I got other stuff. I got the Chewy that you got the autograph from
Yeah,
Peter
Peter
Mayhew.
Mayhew.
I got
Glad I got that, by the way.
that-
Now,
so grateful that you got that before he passed away. I'm sad that I never got to meet him, but at least I have something like that to be able to look at and remember him by
yeah,
and everything. But yeah, wanted you to have one too.
that's amazing. Thank you. And then let's see in the chat here, Ryan said Evil Dead's Ash versus Chucky would be an entertaining battle.
Yeah,
know-
it would.
Yeah, it definitely would. And actually, back in the day of Freddy versus Jason, Alien versus Predator, there was honest to God some talk of some versus Chucky movies. I want to say at one point they were even saying Michael Myers versus Chucky, because I was just like,
what the fuck?
I was like, go fuck yourselves. Like, my boy Michael deserves way better than fighting fucking Chucky, for God's sake.
Well, the one that I heard about that I was really intrigued by was Hellraiser versus Michael.
Yeah. I mean,
That one, coming after Michael for his sins and everything, like, ooh, damn, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember that being a rumor at one point, that Michael versus Chucky, and I was just like, come on. Like, yeah, wasn't a fan of that idea, but yeah, Ash would definitely be pretty funny, because of course you'd have that humor built in, as well as the humor of Chucky. I mean,
it would be like Chucky would be Freddy and Jason would be Michael, so it makes sense. Jack just popped into the chat and says sorry he's late. It's his birthday today, so we're gonna wish him a happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Jack.
Yeah,
yeah, that's no worries about being late. Probably have had social stuff or whatever going on, or just enjoying the birthday. Yeah, we're both just getting over our illnesses now that Peter brought upon us.
You're welcome. It was the flu.
Yeah. I will say I don't think I've had the flu much in my life.
Honestly,
I don't know.
I wonder, looking back now, how many of these colds that I've had were actually the flu.
Well, the big one that I found, differentiation of the two, because they're both like things to your lungs, is the big indicator of a flu versus just a cold is fever, an aggressive fever. Because cold you won't get a fever, but the flu you will, and a lot of times that is one of the worst parts of any illness. A lot of times, if you get a bad flu or a bad fever going, so. Definitely, I'll have new appreciation for Captain Trips in the summer when I
read the stand.
Yeah, when I start my stand reread.
Ryan says, I recently finished Ash vs. Evil Dead. I teared up during the end of the final season. I grew attached to Ash and his quartet. Great show.
I actually bought, I think I had season 1, if not season 2. But I don't think I've even opened them to watch yet. But it's definitely one I'm interested in being involved to watch and stuff. I know it's over now. But yeah, I've always been a big fan of those movies.
Why am I not surprised that they're not open?
How many do I got there? Can you see it? I know I at least have one season. I want to say maybe I bought 2, but I don't think I bought 3 yet. Or maybe I've only bought 1 and I haven't got 2 yet. But either way, yeah, definitely ones I'm.
You got 2.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I have.
Yeah, they're right there on the end next to Austin Powers.
I have the first 2 seasons then, but I need to get the rest. And I do need to watch them at some point. Yes, that's awesome. And yeah, so happy birthday, Jack. And Cody saying it's not Jack Mort, is it? And then Jack says, Travis and Cody, I don't think I'm the pusher. Oh, and then Travis saying, don't count Chucky out, bro. I mean, I'm sorry. Chucky may be terrifying to a child, that's like similar size, but Michael Myers is like, what, 6'5", and powerful. Like, he's impaling people with shotguns and stuff. Like, a doll's going to have nothing on him. I'm sorry.
He's picking people up one-handed by their face and putting them through a spike in the back of the head.
Yeah.
I mean,
the atomic finger through the forehead. I mean, I'm definitely not trying to sleep on Chucky, but I hold Michael in very high regard.
Well, yeah,
so.
There's a reason for that. I mean, Michael is your all-time favorite, so.
Yeah, he is. I mean, because he's the all-time best, right? I mean, Jason and Freddy, in my opinion, are just knockoff versions here. Michael's the best, and if nothing else, I'll just rest on the fact that the original is by one of the greatest horror directors of all time, if not the greatest,
John Carpenter.
So yeah, and I can't wait for their October for a new Halloween movie.
Second of 3.
Yep, indeed, the Laurie Strode trilogy.
The Laurie Strode quad, right?
No, they're calling this new thing like a trilogy.
It's
basically.
like a trilogy.
So that's really cool. I'm excited to see what happens there.
Travis says Chucky has smarts and magic, my dude.
I mean, if you watch Halloween 6, so does Michael. He has some magic going on. So yeah, that's the odds and ends section. So that'll bring us over to
shit. Emails. It's the emails. Tad's gonna read us what people wrote to us.
That's not getting deleted, right?
God damn it. That's back in the day when we were recording in your old basement at your old house.
Yeah.
You were renting from Hayden, who's been on Palaver with Dad.
Yeah.
And that's when we were doing live shows. That's when we were recording and editing out stuff and everything. And I thought that was going to get edited. That's why he says it to me. It's not getting taken out, right?
Indeed. And all I can say is, looking at it there, that's two healthy people talking.
God, yeah. You can hear the difference.
I know, it's like I'm like a week or so removed now of being sick, and they're still having some like residual stuff. I'm just like, this is life now.
I was driving with my wife earlier. We went out to go get like drinks and just run a couple errands and everything like that. And I tried to do an impression, one of the lines that we quote all the time. I can't remember which one it was, but it was a higher voice. I can't do it. Right now, I'm like too nasally and I'm chest congested. I can't do it. And I'm like, oh God, is this my voice now? Like, did I drop an octave because of this sickness?
Yeah, it's always that moment when you have like the residual stuff that lasts, that you're just like, this is it. This is how things are now.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, so jump into some emails here, and which will probably be hilariously dated. But let's see. First up, we have Chris from Australia.
Chris.
And he says, hi, Tad and Peter. He says, I was just listening to your show covering It Chapter 2 and wanted to add a few thoughts of my own, if you'd be so kind as to indulge me yet again, which, of course. He says, I very much enjoyed the movie. In fact, more than Chapter 1. I enjoyed Chapter 1 as well, but I didn't quite get the feeling of the magic that was generated when the losers all came together. Perhaps 7 Children was just too many to really flesh out in the movie, as compared to a 1,300-page book. Even knowing the source material, I had trouble keeping up with who was who. In contrast, Stranger Things had captured that magic of innocence and child friendship so strong. And in Chapter 1 of the It movie, never quite achieved that feeling to the same level. And that's an interesting thing, because I can't really think that I was full on connected to all the characters necessarily. I mean, because you have more of them, and it's interesting to bring Stranger Things up because that one's obviously way more clear. Because you narrow it down to only the 4 kids, or 5 if you count 11.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you think? Did you? I guess, how did you rank the 2 movies?
I liked the first one better than the second one. But honestly, it comes down to that I'm not going to give my like official ranking until I can see Chapter 2 again. I've only seen it the one time in theaters. So
okay.
That's not fair to Chapter 2 to say, oh yeah, 1's definitely better and here's why. I mean, I need to see 2 again. I've only seen 1 twice. I mean, it's so hard to watch these movies because my wife hates clown movies. So I have to do it. And obviously I can't watch it with my daughter. She's 7. Don't even think about suggesting that she watches
that's
it.
That's plenty old.
No. Hashtag Tad is terrible for suggesting a 7-year-old watch
2 years older than I was.
Sir. No.
And every child should be traumatized by Pennywise.
No.
That's my belief.
No.
Every child.
No. But my wife won't watch them with me, so it's a little bit harder for me to get time to watch the It movies.
And your wife should be behind it, because then your daughter will be scared of clowns, and that'll further eliminate any clown possibilities in her life.
Oh, she doesn't like clowns.
Yeah, your daughter doesn't.
It's already bled over. Mom says she doesn't like clowns. Daughter says she doesn't like clowns. Dad says he doesn't like penguins. Daughter loves penguins and likes to tease me about them. She gets that from you. Thanks a lot, you jackass.
Oh man, I was thinking about watching Batman Returns again recently, because I was thinking about Danny DeVito and
the onesie. No, yeah, it's funny how she's definitely a mama's girl, where she takes on Lydia's dislikes a lot of the time and likes. But when it comes down to like my likes, I really severely dislike penguins. You know this, obviously. I don't know if I've ever actually even said it on the podcast. I don't like penguins.
Yeah.
I don't. She does. So for Christmas, we went to the aquarium here in Salt Lake, and my parents took us, and the Christmas gift for all the grandkids, there's several of them now. Both my sisters now have kids. I have my daughter. Was to get something for the gift shop, and my daughter chose a penguin. So, yeah, not happy.
Good kid. Good kid. And then Chris goes on here and says, in contrast, by presenting that forgettable childhood from an adult perspective, I feel Chapter 2 delivered the strength of the group so much more. And I think that maybe it's the reason I enjoyed it more. He says, of course, I enjoyed all the usual things, King cameo, reference to cannot write a good ending, etc. But more specifically, I really liked the cinematography. I thought some of the shots of Mike in his apartment at the library were great, which, yeah, those are definitely good ones. I remember those really standing out. He says, I adore the scene changes from one adult loser to the other as they receive Mike's phone call. And I thought the transition to the scene with Stan's bird puzzle, looking underneath the glass table through the missing piece, was amazing. I'd go see the film again just to see that scene transition. Although I think the whole Henry Bauer storyline was a little tacked on. I thought the scene of him being discharged from the sewer with the body parts is brilliant, which, yeah, I'll say that. I mean, that's probably like the one thing that'd be like, I would just get rid of all the Henry Bauer stuff except for that portion with the sewer was pretty cool, with the body being spit out. But yeah, that's that's one portion here. And then he goes on here and says, another scene I particularly enjoyed was that of Ben being buried in the hideout in a combination with Bev in her blood-filled bathroom stall. Of course, the blood was reminiscent of Kubrick's The Shining, while the final hand grasp between the two of them reminded me strongly of Roland's drawing Jake through the Dutch Hill mansion. The door between them being above Ben, but in front of Bev. The former nod was obviously intentional. The latter less so, but I'd like to think the machete knew what he was doing there.
Damn, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I actually don't think I thought of the perspectives like that either. But yeah,
he's 100% right.
Yeah. I do need to do a rewatch too. I have bought it recently, but I don't think I've cracked it open to give it a watch yet. I think I've only seen it twice in theaters. So yeah. Then it goes. Chris goes on here and says, I like that Machete tried to incorporate the ritual of Chud. His concept seemed fine as the actual ritual, as portrayed in the book, is so metaphysical that it'd be hard to film without going all 2001 on the audience and having them leave the theater scratching their heads. However, in the end, it seemed to come across as just some bogus hocus pocus that Mike got sucked into and that was never going to work. It kind of made Mike look like a fool, and I thought this was a real shame. And I can kind of see that for sure. I do think that I wish that maybe we had a little bit more from Mike, but I actually liked the idea of him basically maybe buying into something that wasn't really true, and tricking them all. Like, I don't know. I just feel like it was interesting to me from a character perspective. But certainly it doesn't excuse the fact that I felt like he kind of got the short end of the stick across the board with the movie. Like, we didn't get any flashbacks for him really.
Yeah.
But yeah. He goes on and says, I understand why in the movie all the losers remember each other at the end, but obviously that's not true to the heartbreaking ending of the books. This change to the ending is an ironic twist on the Denborough cannot write good endings gag that played out during the opening scene. Even as the movie makes fun of that tired old criticism of Stephen King, the movie makers go for a feel-good ending themselves instead of the true. Which, what do you think of that? Like, what did you think of the ending change like that?
Well, they don't remember each other. They start having stuff slip away from them in the book. I mean, that's not different. So,
well, they don't in the movie. The movie, they remember themselves. Like, he's got him programmed into the phone and stuff. Because I remember that being like a big thing. It's like the numbers didn't have a name, but then at the end when Mike calls, got his name. So it's like gives you the impression that, he's added him into his phone. They're going to stay friends and stay connected.
I don't remember that part, so I can't really comment on that. But yeah, if that's changed, I see what Chris is talking about. They go for a feel good instead of a bummer. They're not going to remember each other in 2 years.
Yeah, indeed. And then he goes on and says, my main criticism with both the movies is that in the movies it's really hard to understand what drives Pennywise. It's unclear why the losers didn't get killed by it, whereas other kids seem to. The theme of the losers being particularly imaginative and hence more immune to it, and that other, as King referred to the higher power in the book, Gan perhaps, is in fact helped to destroy it. Is completely lost on the audience. So when you go away thinking about the story as portrayed in the movie, it's hard not to boil it down to scary clown monster terrorizes a town and gets killed. The book is so much richer than that. And
it's true.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But it's definitely a tough one to do. But I think that skipping like the turtle stuff a lot is really where once you skip that, it's going to reduce some richness to the story.
Yeah.
And they unfortunately made that decision in the first one. I mean, they easily could have added it into the second one, especially because they were going back and basically doing a 1.5 with all the kids stuff that they had. But yeah, it's definitely something that they lost in the movie. He says, overall, and despite the previous criticisms, I thought It Chapter 2 was a fantastic outing, and together with Chapter 1 makes a worthy modern adaptation of an amazing book. And he says, and I'd totally be up for further inclusion to the franchises. They may be good, and do not take anything away from the 2 chapters we have so far, but I'm saying bring it on. Because remember, we had the conversation about what do we want to see. And, like, honestly, I'm open to it, too. If you got Skarsgård to play Pennywise and you want to give me something from the colonial time period, fucking A, dude. Like, I just rewatched The Witch recently, and, like, that movie is...
I still haven't watched it.
You should. It's a good one. It's one though you have to watch with subtitles because it literally
it's
like
it's what we do. We watch with 100% subtitles now.
Oh, you do?
We do.
Okay.
It's something that we picked up with our daughter, trying to get her to like sleep through the night in her own bed, and everything like that. We turned it down but have the subtitles on. It's just something that kind of just like stuck for us.
Okay.
Is that there's times where
I know friends that are that they watch subtitles to everything because they don't want any chance of not getting something, you know.
Yeah, there's that's what I was gonna say is sometimes, dude, there's times where it's like, wait, what did he say?
Yeah, so with this one, it's like I'd say one of the most remarkable things about the movie is they actually have like pretty realistic speech for the 1600s in the movie. So it's very I don't know, like King James Bible-ish. And like I saw it at Sundance, and when it first came out at Sundance, and like, dude, there was so much where I was just like, what did he say? Like, wait, what was that? Like, I caught like 60% of what he just said there, but some of it
does
just
not compute.
Yeah,
error.
Yeah, and it's just very like poetic and stuff. And but no, the movie itself is really good.
Yeah.
Just tension and just like. Really good. But thinking about that and then thinking like, what would that look like? But the fact that the people that
Pennywise.
are moving in, it's Pennywise, and like what Pennywise would do to a bunch of people from the 1600s with those, like what superstitions with the way that society was then. Like, I don't know. I think that would be an incredible movie. So I'm for it. I know some people aren't, but there were. The 2 It movies have now made over $1 billion, so it's going to definitely be something that the studios will be open to seeing potentially. And I don't know. I mean, so long as it doesn't get too watered down, like I think I'd pick my shots and just only have a couple of them. Like I think like 1600s, and then like I don't know, like I would even see the World War II era with the black spot. Wasn't that World War II era?
Korea.
Was it Korea? I mean,
yeah, because it was after the 58, because it was Mike's dad. No, so it had to be before. So it was Great Depression era, because it wasn't during wartime.
I thought because there were soldiers there. I thought.
Yeah, but 27-year cycle. 58 was when the Mike's first cycle was, and that was during a cycle, and that was the end of a cycle. So it had to be back in the 30s.
Okay.
Because it was there's soldiers there because there was an air base there. But they weren't going overseas to fight, Nazis and the Japanese World War II. They were just stationed there. It was just a standing base.
Okay.
So
yeah, I mean, you could do that. I mean, but I wouldn't go like too crazy beyond that. But
But yeah, if you're looking at the 80s for the cycle in It Chapter 1 and the 2010s for It Chapter 2, then you would go back to the 50s for the black spot, which would be post-Korea or pre-Korea, depending on how the math works out.
Yeah.
Right there. So that's, you want to avoid wartime because, able-bodied men like Mike's dad would be deployed. But Mike's dad isn't in It Chapter 1. Isn't it like his uncle?
Yeah, because his parents are dead.
Yeah, they died in it. So a little bit of a change there. So,
yeah.
So I got to throw this out there. Travis asked, Peter, please elaborate on this fear. And I'm like, no. I'm not giving you guys ammo against me. Tad already has all the ammo he needs for this. I'm not giving it to you guys. Don't you do your scheming fingers. Don't you dare.
Oh, man. So then Chris signs off and says, thanks for the soapbox. Cheers, Chris from Endworld.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, anytime. We're always open to great emails and good conversations to draw back to it. It has been a bit since we talked about it.
I do definitely need to rewatch it again, and I think Travis is the one that said it in the chat as well. I think I like the second one a little bit more, but like Peter, I need a rewatch. Yeah, I can't. That was October when we saw it. So
yeah, and we still haven't got that director's cut that they were promised, did we?
we haven't. Yeah, because it's supposed to be both of them together.
Even the mixed cut thing that they were talking about. We still haven't heard anything on that, so I'd be interested to see that. But maybe I'll have to give a rewatch at some point soon to both the first two. But definitely good stuff.
Yeah.
So next up is Jim from Rhode Island.
Hey, Jim.
Says, "Hey guys, I just listened to the new podcast, and I think you might enjoy." I remember this now. I think you might enjoy the podcast. Is called Imagined Life, and the episode is called The Reject. The breakdown is they describe a person's life from early childhood until present day. They don't tell you who it is until the very end, but give you hints along the way. If you guys do enjoy it, maybe you could recommend it on your next roundtable. And I actually did look it up, and I actually have it subscribed now. I haven't listened. That's the next.
You got off a podcast there. You're back to books now, right?
Yeah, I'm. And I've got one nonfiction book I want to finish before I go too heavy back into fiction.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can't remember if I've told you, but I know I told everyone on social media, at least on Twitter side, that I started doing Went to the Keyhole on Kindle.
You did tell me that.
And then I also found a PDF online of Rage.
Nice.
So I'm reading that as well.
Nice.
Because I get it's not out there anymore.
Yeah.
But I still want to read it. So yeah, I'm reading those two in terms of like actually reading versus listening. And then listening wise, I'm doing nonfiction for another half a book. So
yeah.
And then he says, "Thanks a lot for the great podcast." Thank you, Jim. So but I did add that to my subscription list. I think it's kind of cool to kind of go through and tell story of famous people, but it kind of hides.
So I was going to ask: is it like historical people like Winston Churchill, or is it like famous people like Michael Jackson? Or
I think yes to both.
It could be either one. Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah. So called Imagined Life. I haven't listened to it yet, but I think the whole premise of it is really cool. So and he's recommending the one called The Reject. Is the episode that he's recommending. So definitely awesome. Next up, Chris from Chicago. He says, "Hi, all gunslingers."
Hi.
Says Chris from Chicago here. Given that you guys are in the book club, I wanted to float a thought past the two of you that has always bugged me a little. The relationship between Eddie and Susanna has always felt unearned, not necessarily forced, but just unearned. It almost seems like it's not there 1 minute and then it's there the next. Of course, it's not exactly that drastic, but it feels like it to me anyway. I was actually hoping I would notice something new or something more nuanced in the text while you guys are reading through it, but it was the same as it's always been. Normally, King is unparalleled when it comes to details, but the relationship is always felt as an afterthought thrown into in as a plot point. In no way detracts from how much I love the books, just something that has bugged me. Thoughts? And then he signs off Long Days and Pleasant Nights, Chris from Chicago.
I remember the first time reading that it really caught me off guard. Like, they were kind of getting, like, chummy.
Yeah.
But then, like, when we get the break from Detta and we get Odetta back, it's like, okay, boom, sleep together and we're together now. It's like, well, holy fuck, where the fuck did that come from? After that, it's like, knowing where they end up, it's kind of just like, I don't want to say that it's refreshing that I don't have to read their courtship over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But it is. Like, it's really nice not having to go through all that. It's like, kind of like, you know, like, my wife is a huge fan of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and two of the characters get together a couple seasons in. It's just like the first couple seasons, she's doing a rewatch right now, so I'll catch an episode here or there when I walk in and she's got the TV on. And it's just like, God, aren't they together already? Like, it's so much better when they get together. Like, it's just kind of like beat your head against the wall where you have to reread it over and over again.
Although, just the opposite of that for me is The Office. To me, the Jim and Pam thing is way better as they're moving towards it.
Yeah.
But I feel like once they're together, and especially once they're together for a while, like, I get tired of both of them as characters. Like, not a fan, and I'm not a fan of some of the choices that the writers made of what they did with them later on. They were both way more unlikable to me.
No, yeah, that's a perfect example. Is like, you know, like it's the journey.
Yeah.
But for me, the journey's not about, you know, Susanna and Eddie. It's about the quartet, which I think that if you go back and you reread 2, 3, 4 times, later, and you have to reread about how they're courting each other and they're dancing around it, and maybe one of them finally tears and makes a move. I would much rather have what we have versus a half a book with that.
Yeah.
It would definitely, I think, take away from the story. But no, I'm wholeheartedly on board with what he's saying.
Yeah, and I've always kind of I don't remember if we mentioned that necessarily in our book club when we were covering that, but I've always kind of felt that too. Although to give a break to King, in terms of whatever, is I would say that Eddie needs to be needed. So he's gonna
it's true.
He's gonna desire that quite a bit. And then I think with Susanna, I mean, in this case we're saying Susanna, but with Detta or Odetta, she has a fear. I mean, she's in a different world. She doesn't like or trust or anything with Roland. She fears him. So in a way, like, is she not also going to cling to
Eddie,
what she knows, like something that is familiar,
someone from her world,
someone familiar, and someone that's being nice, someone that's being compassionate, someone that's being caring. Like, I guess for me, it doesn't necessarily seem like it's far fetched to me. Like, I guess, I don't know. I guess Chris is saying unearned, and I could kind of see that, but at the same time, I would say, did I?
You went back.
Yeah, I accidentally. I was trying to scroll up on the page.
Good.
I was on that thing.
You're good.
Yeah. So I don't. I would say what I would personally say is I don't think it's unearned, but I think it may be fast.
Yeah. Wholeheartedly.
But
agree.
I think in terms of being earned or not, in my opinion, it's earned because of where the characters are at, and I think it's kind of one of those things like, why are the closest friends some people ever have like the people that they're in the battlefield with? That's like there's like a kinship there that's closer than brothers and closer than friends. It's just something beyond. And I would just think that something as traumatic as what they go through on the beach, even in book 2, not to mention just, I guess, those pressures, together, not to mention Roland doesn't like, Odetta because he understands even if he doesn't fully grasp it because it's like just below the surface for him, but he knows there's something that isn't right and he knows that she can't be trusted. Eddie doesn't have that. He never fully doesn't trust. You know what I mean?
He gives the gun.
Yeah, exactly.
If he had any kind of a doubt or any kind of a non-trust, issue, a trust issue, he would not have given her a gun.
Yeah. So I in my opinion, I would say I feel that King definitely did enough to earn it, but it certainly isn't the
norm.
It isn't the focus, I guess.
Right.
It's so like book 4 with Roland and Susan, like the basically your whole purpose of that story is that love story. 11/22/63, that whole book is a love story. So you're going to get far different, like mechanics behind that story versus this one.
And the build up. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that I'm okay with that, but I would definitely agree with you if you want to say, like, you say unearned, Chris. I disagree with that, but I will say if you were to change that and say it feels rushed or fast, I could agree with that. I think that it definitely is.
I get that.
And I think from the perspective of take ourselves out of the universe, look at it from the perspective of King as an author, he needs that love for the plot to happen, right? So he needs Eddie to be in love, to leave the gun. He needs Eddie to be dropping his guard, because like that's where drama comes from, right? Like if Eddie was just full on in the same ballpark as Roland in terms of don't trust her, like the story is gonna go easily.
There's no drama there when we get to the third door.
Yeah,
it's okay. It's Detta again. Okay, tie her up. Okay, Roland, go do your thing. We'll be here. Don't have to worry about time or anything like that.
Yeah, and I know some people may want to only think in universe, but I think both ways. I love thinking in universe, but I also love thinking like the mechanics of storytelling.
Yeah.
And the mechanics of storytelling, King needed that love there, and I think down the road it ends up flourishing into a powerful portion of the quartet. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Roland and Jake have a connection that's beyond what any of the others have, and then I think so to give Susanna and Eddie a connection that's far deeper than anything. That kind of allows like the quartet to have these two units inside of it that are stronger than the overall quartet,
For sure.
And I mean, you could say Jake and Oi as well also have a connection. So, I guess that's a thought for me, is that I'll say definitely it's quick. You could say it's rushed or goes quickly or whatever, but unearned, personally, I'm okay with it just because circumstantially, the even if he doesn't belay the points, I think the pieces are in place for something to happen there.
Yeah.
And the stress is just like a pressure cooker, and it makes it all happen faster than it should because you've got the daily danger of the lobstrosities. You've got they're in a different world. You've got she hates Roland, doesn't trust Roland. I mean, even Eddie,
even got Roland's sickness playing a part.
Yeah,
of it.
Roland's sickness. I mean, and we can't even pretend that Eddie is all nicey nice with Roland at this point either.
No, he's not.
He's not happy with Roland in a lot of ways either. So I would say that all that, in my opinion, I would say it's earned but fast in my view.
Jack says in the chat, I think Eddie's character lends itself to falling in love fast. Perhaps the way he needs to be needed helps.
Yeah,
and that's what you were saying earlier. That's why
definitely.
For
definitely.
Sure wanted to show that.
I think it's definitely like it's crucial for him. Roland needs the addiction to the tower, and I think that's where some people kind of had a problem with the movie is that Roland's kind of forsaken the tower. I always liked it because it felt like it was the natural progression as his soul starts to get redeemed.
Yep.
It'll eventually come to a spot where he's just like, fuck. So I liked it, and I've gone through it a number of times why, but I could see why some people didn't, because you've basically taken away one of Roland's most
defining characteristics.
Yeah. And I think with Eddie, being needed, he needs to be needed. So to lose his brother now puts him in a spot where he's no longer needed. He's in a world that he's unfamiliar with someone that's far more capable than he could ever understand.
It's the only reason Eddie goes through the door in the end there at Balthazar's, is because if he didn't need to be needed, if he was living solely just for his brother, he would have stayed.
Yeah.
There's no reason to go with Roland. There's no reason to go with him at all. But
and Roland does feel that for him too with the sickness, because he's sick during the shuffle portion, and
Eddie still takes care of him.
Eddie takes care of him.
Hunts, even though he's going through heroin withdrawals, because Roland needs him to do that because Roland can't do it himself.
Yeah.
And so that's where Eddie's need comes from. And Roland slowly starts to get a little bit better, introduce Odetta, and that's where the need comes from. Odetta's situation is far more dire than Roland's. And then it kind of like shifts again, where Odetta comes back and Roland gets sicker. And then in the end, it becomes, his wife. I mean, him and Susanna basically, they never officially, but they're married. They're man and woman. So, it comes down to that. He's got his father, big brother figure in Roland, a little brother that he never had. He had a little sister who died.
Yeah.
In Jake. He's got the pet in Oi and kind of a brotherly little brother kinship with Oi, and a wife. I mean, he's got the normal family structure then when we hit book 3.
Yeah.
When Jake comes across and everything. And so it's kind of a, yes, I wholeheartedly agree. Fast progression.
Yeah.
Unearned, what you said.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. But it definitely a good thought though.
No, it is definitely something to point out that versus other like conceptual love stories, it is not something that is the normal pace.
And even with King, like I said, we've got examples of where King's done love stories far different.
Good ones, yeah.
One in this series, and then 11/22/63 is like got to be. I mean, maybe some people want to challenge it, but I'd say it's one of the best love stories in King's pantheon. Is 11/22/63.
I can't think of a better one.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's one of my favorite books too, because it is so atypical, and I love the time period. I love that book. I need to go through that one again. It's been a long time.
You do
for me on that one. So next up, Daryl from Minneapolis says, "Hi, all Podslingers."
Kyle.
He says, just finished another run through the Dark Tower series. Every time I finish the series, I go through a period of grieving. It's such an effort to work through the series, and I get so emotionally connected to the characters that I miss having them in my life when I finish the series. I was wondering if you guys go through the same thing, or am I alone on this one? And he signs off, Daryl in Minneapolis.
Oh, wholeheartedly. There's 2 series. I have 2 series that this happens to me. Dark Tower is front and foremost. Second one, Harry Potter. Every time I get through this, because it's coincidentally enough, both of them are 7 books.
Well, 8 for Dark Tower.
It's 7. 8. Win Through the Keyhole is still not required to get through the Dark Tower series. So
Yeah.
it
is glorious, though.
is a great story. It's a great read, but I can listen to the 7 primary books and not. Plus, there's now technically 8 Harry Potter books. There's an additional one that I still haven't read, but whenever I finish either one of those 7 book series, I absolutely go through like a,
Yeah.
well,
And see me, I think I even get it with the Stand. Like if I go through my yearly Stand, it's just one of those things where it's just like, oh, bummer. Like goodbye for a year, like with all these, great people that I love hanging out with, like Nick and, Stu, and Glenn is one of my I freaking love Glenn. Flag, of course. I mean,
I'm a little disappointed that he was 6th on the list of characters you named.
I was just, I don't know. What do you call it?
5 good guys and then 1 bad guy. It's really interesting that we went that way.
Just
Tad.
threading the needle and then saving the best for last. That's what it is.
I'm actually that way with it a lot because it is a very long book, and having them as kids and having the adult ones as well. And this was brought up earlier in the Chris's email is the companionship between them and everything. Bev and Ben getting together. Richie and Eddie's relationship, Richie and Ben's, Mike and everything, surviving the attack from Henry and everything, Bill and his wife and everything. At the end, it's just like, now it's over. Now what am I going to do?
Yeah.
I always am blessed with a sense of loss, Butch. That's one of the great things about the Harry Potter series and the Dark Tower series for me. Is that I'm going through 7 books. I usually rack up an Audible credit or 2. I always try to turn to something new for that
to help
kind of ease my loss there.
Yeah.
So, because I you go through 7 books, whether it's the Gunslinger or the Sorcerer's Stone for Harry Potter, it's the shorter. And then as the books go on, they get longer and longer. It's the exact same between the 2 series. So by the time you finish them, you're putting, for me, weeks, maybe even a couple months into a series.
Yeah.
Gives me an Audible credit or 2 to stack up new books.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I agree. Yeah. I think I get it with this. I get it with Dark Tower. I also get it with, like I said, The Stand comes to mind. Because again, those are ones I read the most regular. Of the books, but yeah, definitely something that can happen to all of us, certainly.
Yeah.
And I think we'll do one more.
Sounds good.
And
how's your voice holding up? You feeling okay?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
You don't sound as bad as we last episode. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. No, definitely not.
Luckily, we're a little bit after your sickness.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Indeed. So it's Jack from the UK.
Jack.
He says, "Hi, Tad and Peter."
Hi. Hey, wait, is this the Jack that's in the chat?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So it says, just a quick one, but I was listening to your latest roundtable and the list of comparisons between the Dark Tower and the Lord of the Rings. Afterward, I began listening to the Wolves of the Kala. In the Kala story, there's a moment he's on the road in America. A Callahan story. I'm sorry, did I miss that line? In Callahan's story, there's a moment where he's on the road in America and senses the low men are near. He then dives off the road and hides while the low men pass. This makes me think of Frodo and the other hobbits hide from the Nazgul at the beginning of the Fellowship.
Yeah,
that's actually a really good one. Because I can't remember who brought that topic up, but they actually end up saying questioning is there any other connections that people could think about there of Lord of the Rings and the Dark Tower, and we threw it out to everyone. So Jack responded with one that actually is a really good one.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. Yeah, that's Birthday Boy Jack.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, that is a really good one, and I think that's definitely, I think it's a dead on one too.
Yeah.
And I'm just about to get there. I mean, once I get through Went Through the Keyhole, this is the first time I've ever done Went Through the Keyhole in the middle of this,
in a proper spot.
Because I usually do it at the end. Or I've done it. I think because I'll say I think this is only the 3rd time I've read the book. I read it when it first came out, and then there was one time I did it in the middle of or after a cycle. It's kind of a almost like a coda. Just go back and revisit the characters in the world. But then it's been, that was like a long ways ago. That's probably 5 or 6 cycles ago for me. So it's been a while that I've gone without it. So it's really cool to be back in there. And then once I'm done with that, I'll be into the Wolves of the Kala and that tail end of the series.
My favorite book. I love the Wolves of the Kala.
Yeah. And then Jack goes on here, says, also listening to the way the Kala folk talk, I can't help but talk the same way. Do you find the same? Tell me, I beg.
Yeah. There's a couple things that when I read through the Dark Tower series that pops up, I start saying cry your pardon. And my wife has caught me doing it a couple times. And she's like, what the fuck are you doing? So, also it crops up in my text messages. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. I'll definitely, especially with you, I'll definitely text you like, Heil, what time's the movie? Or like, cry your pardon, I didn't see your text or something like that.
Yeah. I think it happens to me for sure. But I mean, I'm a little ways away from my last reread of that book, but we'll see what happens. You guys might even see it here in the next couple months with as I get through that book. So definitely a good one, though. It's one that gets brought up a lot. I think it happens to all of us. I think my ultimate favorite story is saying thank you, Si, to a pizza person.
Yeah.
Who was delivering a pizza. And I just signed the thing for the tip, gave it to him, and just closed the door. There's no reason to try to explain or anything. Let's just end this as quickly as possible.
Let's just end this interaction now.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, I got pizza waiting for me at home.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me.
All right, and then he finishes up, says thank you for doing such a great podcast. Long days and pleasant nights, Jack from the UK.
Oh, thanks, Jack.
So I don't remember how long ago the email was, but that gets us pretty close to caught up.
Here's a hint. Jack says in the chat, "Thanks, guys. I'm now listening to Wastelands after going back around." He was in Wolves of the Kala,
laughing us,
and now he's back around to Wastelands.
Yeah,
so he's listened to the rest of Wolves of the Kala, Songs of Susanna, The Dark Tower, The Gunslinger, Drawing of the Three, and is now in Wastelands. So.
Yeah. So how often do you ever reread book 1 after 7? Just maybe not you're going to go through the whole series again, but just to kind of get that extend that first line.
Because if I get back into the Gunslinger, I can't read Gunslinger and not go into Drawing of the Three. What are you, a madman?
I think I've done it a couple times because I think the reason being is because the book 1 does end and it not necessarily doesn't have a cliffhanger by any means.
Mm-hmm.
Him just on the beach, that can be.
But I know what happens next.
Yeah,
so.
but if you've just gone through, I've done it. I think I've done it twice where I've done that because I'm just okay, first line. Well, now I want to feel what does it feel like for him, to go immediately into the next.
Yeah, but it's not the next cycle though. That's the previous cycle.
Well, no, but
we don't know what the next cycle holds. So kind of leaving it up to my imagination more than rereading the first book and being oh, this is what happens after book 7. So.
Yeah, and Ryan just asking you because you just started Red Dead 2 for the first time.
I finished the story. I am now doing little side quest things. I'm actually struggling with something right now that's really starting to piss me off a little bit. I'm doing the legendary animals.
Oh,
apparently
yeah.
you can't get the last legendary animal until you do the hunting challenges. And there's one where you have to use predator bait and herbivore bait and make a kill back to back.
Oh.
So kill a herbivore using herbivore bait, then put down predator bait and kill a predator using predator bait. I've probably put down 20 predator baits and not had a single predator come up.
Yeah.
It's really starting to piss me off. But I finished the story. I'm just kind of just can't stop playing. I have 2 other new games waiting for me from Christmas. I got Fallen Jedi.
Oh, okay.
And Last of Us.
Okay.
For PlayStation. I've never played through The Last of Us. I have those 2 waiting for me, and I just can't stop playing Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, it is a great game. I'd say it's one of the better games in the last little while. It's because I feel like there's good games out there, but then there's ones that are transcendently great, and I think Red Dead and most of the shit that Rockstar does falls into that. There's a reason they come out with a game every 5 or 6 years.
No, they actually put the effort into it, and they make great games. I remember playing Red Dead and being damn, this is just a fine game. And it's a debate now, obviously with the ending of Red Dead Redemption 2, which is weird because it's a prequel to Red Dead Redemption 1.
I tried. It's
You
tough.
can't?
It's tough,
You
man.
can't?
It's such a radically older game, and there's just the mechanics are and the graphics are different. And it just
Don't do it.
I tried. You could try. It didn't do it for me.
The only problem is I think I have to bust out a disc.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And you know my aversion to discs now.
Yeah.
It's not good anymore when I have to play a disc.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good game though. I actually have been thinking about doing a replay because I was doing 40-50 percentile range, and I was trying to do a lot of different stuff, but then I finally just went screw it and just went zip through the storyline. So there's a lot of stuff I haven't done in the game. I'm definitely not gonna. I'm not 100%er. There's a lot of people that 100% games. I don't know if that's ever something I've made a commitment of doing.
Have you looked into like all the details of what 100%ing that game would be?
That's what I'm saying. Like I can't even.
There's 178 species to discover.
Yeah.
Of just animals. There's 77 equipment that you have to find. I have like 12.
Yeah.
And I've played through the game, and I'm in like post epilogue.
Yeah.
Just like leftover missions that I didn't do.
Yeah.
Like little stranger stuff and stuff like that. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, and everything like that. And then like these hunting challenges and there's gambling challenges and
yeah.
herbalist. You have to find different fucking plants for God's sakes.
Yeah, indeed.
Oh hell yeah, Travis. Go ahead, read it.
Let's see. What did I miss here? So, Jack says I have an outlandish theory about the loop. May have to written in an email. I'd say strays quite far into fanfiction. Yeah, go ahead and send it in, Jack. Love to hear stuff like that. Ryan says Salt Lake City is partly in Last of Us.
Oh shit, is it really? Me and my wife love when Utah's referenced and stuff. We always kind of like freak out. One of the ones that really got us was in the trailer for Deadpool. Looks like a topographical map of Utah. Talking about Deadpool's face.
Oh, okay.
Just things like that. Always like, hey, Utah. That's
Stranger
awesome.
Things season 2.
Stranger Things season 2 promo. Yeah. Season 3.
Or was it 3? How many seasons are there now?
3 seasons.
Oh, okay. Yeah, season 3.
Season 3. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because it's the first one where they didn't fuck with the same kid.
Yeah, they went with someone different this time.
Finally picked on someone else. It's like, good God, people. Yeah, season 3, I'm sorry. Probably the best moment in all of Stranger Things, by the way, happens in Salt Lake City.
For sure.
So.
Provo, not Salt Lake City. Let's be.
Or Utah.
No, Orem. Because it's isn't it Orem?
I think it's Provo.
I think it's Orem. A Mormon from Orem?
I don't know.
Isn't that what they say in the show?
I can't remember.
Travis says, what if they had a Dark Tower RPG in the same vein as D&D? Yeah, sign me up.
I've never done D&D, but I mean...
I never have, but I did drama in high school, so I mean, fuck, I don't care. Do it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that would...
I've honestly been curious about D&D a couple times in my life.
Yeah.
Being like, dude, if you get the right group together, anything is fun.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, me and you did something that was really fun back in the day. A few years back with that assassination game that they do on college campuses.
Yeah.
Where like you pick a target and then you have to like shoot him with like a Nerf gun and everything. Did that? We good?
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, okay. For some reason my headphones like cut out for half a second.
No, I just muted the
okay.
the tablet was unmuted for some reason.
I gotcha. But yeah, we did that for probably like 5-6 months. That was so much fun. I tried to get you right out here outside your house, and my gun jammed. Fucking gun.
Oh man, yeah. So that's that definitely a little tangent on games there, but it's definitely some good games. Red Dead is definitely one that's very Dark Tower.
Oh yeah,
ish. It makes you think of Dark Tower quite a bit. I've seen some people online that have gone through and made Roland as best they could with the outfit.
Ooh, really?
And stuff. Yeah, which I can't say I haven't done as well.
Dude, I don't. That's the one thing that I've never done in Red Dead. Either first or second game, I just never mess with the outfit.
Oh, really?
I played through Red Dead Redemption 2 with Arthur with that tan coat. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what he wore. Unless I went to a cold area, then I put on the winter cowboy. When I came back out, tan coat went back on. I did not mess with anything.
See, I got like the legendary bear and got like the bear head thing, and it's great because like people make fun of you. They're like, "What the hell's wrong with you?"
Really?
Yeah, they're like, "What the hell is that person?" Like they'll like the townspeople make fun of you and stuff, which of course leads to me massacring the whole town. You know, that's just what happens.
I've done that once or twice. I channel my dark side. I had someone who tripped up my horse Like riding down the road, I'm on the right side, he's on the right side. All of a sudden, for some reason, he just like puts his horse across the road, and I hit him and like go flying over. Man, I get up and I like beat the crap out of him, tie him up, take him up, and feed him to a crocodile. You ever done that?
Oh yeah.
Hog-tied someone and taken him to an animal and let the animal eat him?
Yeah. That's a fun game. And then Ryan says, "Wonderful game, Peter. You'll love it." Travis says, "D&D is the best. Never laughed as hard as when my friend and I all friends and I all get together and start cutting up playing that game." And then Cody says, "You can imagine how I felt with Dark Tower in Topeka, Kansas."
Oh yeah, that's right. Cody's from Topeka. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yeah, indeed.
It's so great when you see like Salt Lake, like your hometown or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
For Stephen King, the big one for us is Campion goes through Salt Lake City. We don't see it, but they mention it.
It's
because they mention about, they've been coffins in Salt Lake City when we stop for dinner or whatever. And we're
burgers,
just,
yeah.
Every time I read that, I'm like, fuck.
Shit. We did.
Yeah, that sucks. So I think that'll be it for this episode. We got a couple emails. I actually added to the list today before the episode, and we're up to that now. So we're getting close to the bottom of the mailbag, which is awesome. So we're, still a little bit behind, delayed. I believe there's at least still one email that mentions looking forward to the Dark Tower Amazon series. So,
hopefully we get that new one from Jack about his theory with the loop. So
yeah, definitely.
Counting on you, Jack.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and hit the outro stuff real quick. If you want to subscribe to us or rate and review us, you can do that on Apple Podcasting. You can stream us on Stitcher. Now you can find us on Spotify as well. You can find the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com. Got a lot of we'll have all the stuff on this that we covered on this episode, as well as I will try to remember to put that video of Kubrick from The Shining on there as well. And if you want to contact the show, Peter can tell you how to do that.
Email us at darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. We got our social media. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. Twitter @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. And Instagram, darktowerpalaver. All one word. No spaces, right?
On Instagram,
Instagram.
No spaces.
And then YouTube is youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. That's where we stream all of our shows. Click the subscribe button, get the notifications, ring the bell, and then make sure to like the videos.
Yeah, indeed. So we'll be back next time, which is February 15th. We'll be back on that episode. Will be a book club. And then we'll be back on the 29th on Leap Year Day for another roundtable. So, that's kind of what to expect in the next couple weeks. And a lot of fun. And thank you guys for joining us, everyone in the chat. Had a good, lively crew as becoming usual, which is always awesome. Always love having you guys. It always makes the conversation
it's great,
certainly more lively and stuff.
So awesome.
And it does help with tangents too. I mean, I don't know. Tangents to me aren't negative.
No, tangents are the best. I love tangents.
So it's I love having you guys to throw us on tangents and also put us on just random Dark Tower topics too. Always fun. So, we'll see you guys next time for, as we're now drawing into the end of book 2. We're in the 80 percentile. So, hopefully we could take a good bite out of it in a couple weeks. And
Travis calls for more tangents.
That was certainly, if we ever do t-shirts, there's going to be some tangent t-shirt of some kind.
And hashtag Tad is terrible. That's going to be the first t-shirt we ever make. I swear to God.
Yeah, most likely. Like I said, I think we're in the spot now. We can if we got some designs made, we could probably do that if everyone was interested. But we will see you guys in a couple weeks for our book club, and then again on the leap year. That'd be a fun one.
Yeah,
because statistically, I wonder what the odds of ever hitting that day again would be.
Oh wow!
With the way our schedule tends to kind of shift, like from year to year, like I'd probably say
every 4 years we get a leap year. I mean,
but
geez, that's talking about doing a podcast for over 10 years.
No, but even then, like let's just say 4 years in the future when there's another leap year,
we're not even going to be recording on the 29th.
We may not be recording on that day.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's could be a once in a lifetime thing there.
We've been recording for 5 years now. 4 years.
4. This year will be 5.
This year will be 5. So we'll be close to our 10-year mark next leap year.
Yeah. See if we're I guess that we're not recording on that day. It's just one of those things. Like
I'm going to guess it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, even like the last couple years, I feel like our last show before Christmas, like the one 2 years ago, I feel like was like a week and a half before Christmas. And this last one was like a couple days before Christmas.
Yeah.
So it's like we shift our calendars a little bit every year, and like so just the fact that like 4 years from now we'll be on the exact same starting week and happen to have an episode.
Well, also leap year is not going to be on Saturday.
On Saturday too. Yeah. So no, it'll never happen
Not a
again.
chance.
It'll be the one and only time. So see you guys then, or not then, but in the book club before that. And as we always say, long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
Yeah, thank you guys in the chat. We will see you guys in a couple weeks if you're here for the book club. It'll be a lot of fun. And thanks again for joining us. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, bye, guys.